Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Extracting the Immortality of Cancer Cells at the Beginning. Chapter 1. Marvel, the headquarters of the World Security Council. Tap, tap. It was the sound of leather shoes rubbing against the floor. Alexander Pierce, holding a stack of documents, just walked out of the door of the conference room. After his eyes got rid of the more dazzling light, he found that the two subordinates who were waiting outside the conference room were missing, and only a reflective brown bald head with glasses was left. Sitwell, where is Rumlow? Pierce adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and asked with a frown. Director, Rumlow was called away by your youngest son Jonathan, who said he wanted to learn new fighting skills. This brat, is he learning fighting from Rumlow again? He has been learning for 3 years. Rumlow is almost never seen on this day every week. Just send Rumlow to him. Jonathan is his third son and the one he worries the most. From childhood to adulthood, relying on his identity as the second generation of Hydra, Jonathan has done a lot of outrageous things. Basically, he knows all the female agents in the entire SHIELD, and even the Times girls in New York. He has contact information. He drives a supercar out in the morning and comes back with someone holding his waist at night. He is a playboy and spends his time in debauchery. If he inherits Hydra, it will be finished within a year. So Pierce directly picked Jonathan away and chose to focus on training his two older brothers Arthur and Jack as his possible future heirs. One was secretly inserted into Congress by him, and the other worked with other branches of Hydra. As for Jonathan himself, Pierce wanted to implement a laissez-faire policy. Anyway, he didn't have the material to inherit, and as his son, it was nothing to be a playboy. As the director of the SHIELD, no one could disobey his decision. But what he didn't expect was that just 3 years ago, Jonathan, who was addicted to the bright lights and wine all day long, seemed to have changed. He was less interested in playing, but suddenly became very interested in fighting, fitness and exercise. And Crossbones Rumlow, who was considered a more capable agent under his command, was pestered by Jonathan to practice fighting skills, and this study lasted for 3 years. It would be fine to strengthen physical fitness and make up for the deficit, but Jonathan kept studying continuously for 3 years. At this point, he, who was suspicious by nature, naturally noticed something wrong. If he had not examined his youngest son in the name of a physical examination and confirmed that he was his biological son, he would have even suspected someone who had impersonated Jonathan. As the great cause of Hydra's revival, no link and no personnel can be sloppy. Thinking of this, Pierce held his temple with his right hand fingers with a headache, and handed the document in his other hand to Sitwell. Director, this is the draft of the Insight Plan. Take it and sort it out. Let the technical staff of the department verify the feasibility of the plan, and then put it in my office. Okay, Director, are you leaving? I'll prepare the car for you. Yes. Pierce Manor, an open space. Uncle Rumlow, should we have achieved today's training target? Yes, if there is nothing else, I will go back to the headquarters first. Agent Sitwell just called me, and the director may have something else for me to deal with. Thank you for your hard work, Uncle Rumlow. You go ahead, I have to clean up here too. In the sun, a man with black hair and black eyes, a refined body, lifted himself from the standard push-up position and stood up with a neat push-up. Patting the gravel on his palms and pointing to his sweat-soaked vest, the man said to Rumlow. Yeah, nodding, Rumlow walked back and gradually disappeared from Jonathan's sight. Sure enough, it's still a bit difficult to capture Rumlow. Compared with the loose SHIELD in the future, the rules and order of Hydra, which is similar to military orders, are obviously much better. Even if you are a prophet, it's difficult to shake the reality with the ability of ordinary people. Jonathan said, habitually looking at the palm of his hand, where there is a glowing tattoo progress bar that only he can see, and the value on it has now been loaded to 99.99%. Seeing this, his eyes flashed with a hint of suppressed excitement. Eyes the golden finger finally going to awaken. Quote, theoretically, Jonathan is not from this world, at least, some of his memories are not. 3 years ago, he was infected and fell into a coma due to the leakage of unknown substances in the laboratory. When he woke up, his identity, body, some memories and even the world he lived in had changed. He found himself traveling to the Marvel world in the film and television series of his previous life, and he became the third son of the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the behind-the-scenes boss of Hydra. Moreover, his own memory was also integrated with his memory to become a complete memory. Not only that, when he traveled over, he also got the information bound to his golden finger. The name of the golden finger is Concept Extraction Quantum System. It can be used for microscopic things as small as viruses, cells, and particles, macroscopic things as large as planets, black hole, universe, and other nouns for conceptual ability extraction. The extraction method is very simple. A noun has two entries, and the entry is the ability derived from the noun. If Jonathan draws the noun chloroplast, then there will be abilities such as photosynthesis, light energy absorption, and energy conversion. The whole system is similar to a card game. The noun card pool is refreshed once a month, and there are 3 card extraction opportunities every day. You can draw or save them. 180% of the draws are guaranteed to win, which is called a big guarantee. 80% of the draws are guaranteed to win, which is called a small guarantee. The noun types are divided into 3 types: arc green, SR, purple, and SSR, gold. The highest is SSR, and there are also unknown types, all represented by. At the same time, there is a special mechanism for refreshing entries. A noun has a maximum of 2 derived abilities. The first draw, the noun card has only 1 ability, the second draw is 2 abilities, also called second awakening. And this system consumes some energy in time and space travel. The last message left for Jonathan was a tattoo of a progress bar that would be fully loaded in about 3 years. And a warm reminder: physical strength is the basis for awakening abilities. So, in these 3 years, in order to strengthen his predecessor's depleted body, Jonathan started to exercise and asked Rumlow for fighting skills, and this persistence lasted for 3 years. Finally, 3 years were up, and the system was about to awaken. After 3 years in the Marvel world, Jonathan, as the current behind-the-scenes boss of Hydra, a member of the World Security Council, and the son of the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., has a relatively comfortable life. At least, unlike other time travelers who come to Marvel as beggars and gangsters, racking their brains to think of various ways to win the favor of the characters in the plot or survive by making friends. Not only do they live like licking dogs, but they are also worried and nervous every day. On the other hand, looking at myself. Sorry, I am really showing off my rich identity. In other words, it is a great start. As the next candidate heirs of their cheap father, their elder and second brothers are naturally subject to more management and strict requirements. It can be said that Jonathan is currently the most free-range, pampered son of Pierce. However, as a time traveler who knows everything, Jonathan said that this is just superficial calmness. First, according to the changes in the future, if Jonathan does not appear in this world, the secrets of the future Snake Shield will gradually surface and be discovered by Nick Fury. At this time, the old American popsicle captain was dug out and thawed, and the Black Egg had another cheap labor force. And with the disclosure of the truth, the insight plan of the cheap father Pierce will fail, and he himself and even his family will be liquidated. Jonathan knows very well that this is not the so-called martial arts world, and there is no such thing as the family will not be affected by the disaster. In the United States, a country with corrupt capital and heaven-defying, if you are not careful, the whole family will meet God in an orderly manner, focusing on a family reunion. Of course, this is still a small matter. In the future, since Tony Stark revealed himself as Iron Man, the entire Marvel world has slowly begun to turn to high risk. Various superpowers have emerged in an endless stream, and supervillains are everywhere. You may see God inexplicably when you go out. Let's talk about the most recent major crisis. Aliens invaded New York. This was a large-scale battle, and the damage caused affected many places. Jonathan could not guarantee that his home would not be destroyed, including his cheap relatives. These situations alone could make Jonathan very anxious. Not to mention the future plots of Avengers 2 to IV, 1 Ultron and 1 Thanos. In addition to the plot of Loki in the future, Sunshine Rainbow Dark Horse Nigakong is about to appear. How can he beat others when he makes a move? The future is destined to be turbulent. Therefore, what Jonathan has been looking forward to for 3 years is the awakening of his golden finger, and having a strong body to carry the operation of the system. At this time, Jonathan has come to his room, closed the door, and then took a deep breath, looking at his palm expectantly. In his heart, he felt that the system was about to be activated. Tick, tick, tick. On the wall, the hands of the clock turned, paused and froze before a new round of rotation began. As an inexplicable heat was generated on Jonathan's palm, the progress bar that stopped at 99.99% jumped to 100% in a very short time. Then, the pattern of the progress bar began to fade, replaced by a transparent pattern in the shape of a cell. At this moment, a mechanical sound suddenly sounded in Jonathan's mind. The concept extraction quantum system has been successfully activated, and the newcomer gift package has been issued. Please pay attention to check your personal mailbox. After the sound disappeared, Jonathan's mind was filled with the sound of an engine starting. A panel similar to the game interface suddenly appeared in front of Jonathan, but this panel was very simple. There were 3 icons on it. The first icon was the personal mailbox that the mechanical sound just pointed to. The second icon was the noun extraction card pool. The third icon was the combination of personal information and equipment bar. Seeing this simulation panel, Jonathan felt like he had traveled back to his previous life to play a low-quality legendary online game. But fortunately, there are no ads here, which is much more pleasing to the eye than in his previous life. Jonathan tried to sense it with his hands and brain. He found that whether it was driven by brain waves or touched by hands, he could operate in this simulation panel that only he could see. Of these 2 methods, he preferred the former because only he could see this panel. If he operated this tablet in front of others, they might think he was crazy. With an impatient and nervous mood, he clicked on his personal mailbox, which had a line of words written on it. The newcomer gift package includes: randomly get an SSR noun card, a newcomer protection 80 draws must win up, a newcomer choose one from 5 card pools. So, you can choose your first novice pool by yourself, and then the system will randomly give you an SSR, which is equivalent to giving you a starting ability. But, if it is random, there is a bit of uncertainty. What if an ability that is useless comes out? Thinking of the loving smile of the future purple potato spirit, Jonathan gritted his teeth. In any case, getting the noun card is his only way to escape from the category of ordinary people. Only with ability can you have a foundation for survival. At least, looking at the card pool settings of the system, the SSR card can't be too bad. Forget it, people die and birds fly to the sky, and they will not die for thousands of years. Jonathan did not hesitate anymore, and his mind moved. Click, receive. Then, Jonathan's transparent panel began to emerge with a dazzling golden light. Gold and gold, gold and gold. Jonathan stared at the simulation panel in front of him. Until the golden light disappeared, a noun card with somewhat realistic art appeared in front of him. Noun, cancer cell. Type, microscopic card. Level, SSR. Details, abnormal cells with unlimited proliferation, invasion and metastasis capabilities. Term 1, immortality unlimited proliferation. After equipping this term, the ability user will enhance the unlimited regeneration ability of all cells. Manifested as extreme healing and unlimited functional enhancement. Varies with the host's strength. P.S. Proliferation lock threshold. Cell values exceeding the threshold will fuse, and the initial state is weak state self-healing. Confirm the equipment. Yes, no. It's really Jin Zongjin. Tongzi, you really make me cry. Jonathan's voice was trembling. You know, the information contained in this term, all cells proliferate infinitely, is infinite. In a person's body, there are nerve cells, muscle cells, white blood cells, and epithelial cells. Unlimited proliferation combined with the so-called strengthening means that his cells will be infinitely strengthened. According to the prompt, as long as his strength is strong enough, the cell strengthening will become even more amazing. Nerve cells correspond to personal reaction ability, thinking, speed. Muscle cells correspond to individual strength, physique, muscle group. White blood cells correspond to the human immune system, disease resistance and antitoxicity. Epithelial cells, defense. The main feature is an all-round template. Except that you can't enhance your abilities by sunbathing. Theoretically, as long as Jonathan is alive for 1 second, his physique will be infinitely strengthened, and it is only a matter of time before he becomes a super low-profile Superman. But, you really don't say, if you really draw the entry brought by chloroplasts, it can just make up for this regret perfectly. Yes, Jonathan chose to extract without any hesitation. In the next second, every cell in Jonathan's body seemed to be pierced by thousands of red-hot steel needles. The pain of the needles piercing his soul and the extreme burning heat directly tied up his consciousness and carried out another nuclear strike. Just like the little boy who punched in at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He illuminated the whole day with the enthusiasm of the sun, bringing the holy light of Amaterasu. Bang! The sudden and violent reaction directly put Jonathan's brain into a shutdown state. The whole body became stiff as if it was electrocuted, and then fell straight to the floor of the bedroom. At this time, the loud noise of Jonathan's body hitting the floor startled Teresa, the housemaid who was cleaning the courtyard. So, Teresa, who didn't know what was going on, went to Jonathan's room, knocked on the door and asked, "What happened, Master Jonathan?" However, except for silence, Teresa could not hear any other sound, so she left helplessly. "Master, you must be restrained." After an unknown amount of time, Jonathan, who was lying on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. At this time, the sky outside the window had turned from azure to golden. Jonathan squinted at the wall clock on the bed, but was surprised to find that the original 12 under the hour hand had already turned to 6. I was unconscious for 6 hours. It was already evening. At this time, Jonathan was actually still in a trance, and the experience that had just penetrated his bones still made him feel scared. It can be said that whether it was all in the past life or this life, he had never experienced such extreme pain. It was like breaking all the muscles and bones in the body without anesthesia and then putting them back together. Fortunately, Jonathan fainted immediately. If he had bitten off his tongue because of the pain, he would have died early. Until his mind was functioning normally and his spirit was back on track. Jonathan jumped up from the ground. In this simple process, he found that his body was full of unprecedented vitality, which was hard to describe. Compared with his previous physique, his predecessor had been basically hollowed out by alcohol and girls in the first 16 years. Jonathan's subsequent training was just to strengthen the training on this basis, but the overall quality was not complete, and sometimes he would even often experience weakness and hypoglycemia. Now, Jonathan can clearly feel that his physical fitness has been strengthened. In addition to quality, there are also gains in spirit. In the past, when thinking, Jonathan always had an invisible blur in his mind that affected his judgment. Now his thinking has become particularly clear, and some things that he couldn't remember in his previous life can now be remembered. Regarding this, Jonathan felt like Lucy developing her brain in Lucy. The unlimited proliferation characteristic of cancer cells means that his brain cells and neurons will continue to evolve, and it is very likely that he will eventually reach Lucy's level or even surpass it. I have both life. Thinking of this, Jonathan stood up and walked to the floor-length mirror to observe his changes. At this time, the white vest on his body was already soaked with sweat, so Jonathan simply took it off. It would have been better if he didn't take off his clothes. Once he took off his clothes, Jonathan saw his strong body after evolution. After 3 years of training, Jonathan did not increase the size of his muscle groups, just to train his body to be refined and healthy. And now, he is like taking animal muscle powder, with 2 more pectoral muscles in front, and the lines of the 6 abdominal muscles below have become more obvious, and the remaining 2 are hidden under the inconspicuous belly button. Rather than saying that Jonathan's physique and muscle condition were similar to Bruce Lee's lean type before, Jonathan now looks more like a well-proportioned Baki. It seems, the immortality of this cancer cell is a bit too amazing, so how much has my body been strengthened, and to what extent can it heal itself to the limit? Thinking of this, Jonathan couldn't wait to try the effect of his ability. So he walked out of the room and came to the outdoor venue where he had just trained. In this training ground with a radius of 100 meters, Jonathan had purchased a large number of fitness equipment for fitness. These include but are not limited to sandbags, single and double bars, dumbbells, and even the periphery of the training ground. Jonathan asked people to build a plastic track according to his memories of his previous life. What? Why do you think Jonathan has so much money? I guess Nick Fury's money-making skills in the future are learned from his father. The sandbag in the equipment is also a digital sandbag that Jonathan specially went to the technical department of S.H.I.E.L.D. for free. There is a numerical sensor inside the sandbag, which is connected to a display screen outside. It is a training equipment specially tailored for combat personnel and agents by S.H.I.E.L.D. At this time, Jonathan leaned back slightly in front of the sandbag, and then punched the sandbag with force. The next second, the sandbag took off, and the display installed next to it lit up. Jonathan's strength at this time was about 400 kilograms. This value is a little worse than that of Tyson, the professional boxing champion in his previous life, but it is still relatively satisfactory. You know, his strength was not even 250 kilograms before. And now he can even kill his former self with one punch. Next, he tested his other values. Jumping on the spot can reach 2.5 meters, and sprinting 100 meters at full speed can run in 9.5 seconds. Captain America's peak physical fitness value is 8.62 seconds for 100 meters, which is a physical property. Another aspect of the immortality of cancer cells is the unlimited regeneration ability of cells, which is the so-called extreme self-healing. Jonathan didn't know how strong this ability was, whether it could be compared with the famous healing of Uncle Wolf. Thinking of this, he immediately grabbed a sharp stone on the ground and tried to slide it hard on his skin. But to his surprise, this sharp stone didn't seem to be able to cut his skin, but only left a shallow white mark. Oh, I forgot that cell proliferation and evolution seem to strengthen epithelial cells. What should I do if I can't break the defense? Jonathan suddenly thought of a certain ruffian Superman named Han, who shaved his beard and cut his hair with laser eyes. Typical defense can't be broken, so you have to do it yourself. The main feature is self-digestion. What about yourself? I don't have this skill, at least not now. Oh, I have it. Jonathan suddenly remembered that at last year's coming-of-age ceremony, Rumlow gave him a dagger with a blade made of vibranium. This knife can just cut my wounds and verify my self-healing ability. After all, in addition to adamantium and the mysterious Uru metal, vibranium is one of the hardest metals in Marvel. Thinking of this, Jonathan returned to his room and took out the dagger from his cabinet. Vibranium is a special metal unique to the Marvel world. It originated from meteorite ores that fell to the Earth from outer space. Its molecular structure is relatively static, and theoretically it hardly conducts any energy, including kinetic energy, thermal energy, electrical energy, etc. And these energies can be released in the next vibration, or converted into other forms. Jonathan's vibranium dagger was bought by Rumlow from Ulysses Klaue when he was on a mission. Speaking of Ulysses Klaue, this mini-boss who appeared in Black Panther 1. He stole a lot of vibranium from Wakanda in 30 years and became a famous vibranium dealer. However, his neck was also branded with a thief tattoo by the Wakanda people. This tattoo was regarded as a shame by Klaue, and he has been irreconcilable with the Wakanda tribe ever since. Since then, the people of the Wakanda tribe have also begun to look for buyers who bought vibranium from him and look for Klaue's traces. Jonathan, who got the vibranium dagger, naturally knew that he might be found by the people of Wakanda in the future. But it would be pure stupid to waste a good thing. Where can you find such a good thing that can cut iron like mud? After quickly going through the plot of vibranium, in his mind, Jonathan didn't think about it anymore, but focused on his extreme self-healing effect. He gently pulled the vibranium dagger against his skin. The sharp blade cut a small hole in Jonathan's skin, and the smooth cut layer revealed the flesh and blood inside, and blood oozed out quickly in the next second. But what surprised Jonathan was that he didn't feel any severe pain in the face of this self-mutilation behavior. Yes, this should be the cell proliferation effect brought by the conceptual ability. Whether it is the physical strengthening of the body or even the senses such as pain, it has also been strengthened. You know, when a person evolves to a certain level, he must be, both mental and physical, that is, the superposition of spirit, sense, and physical body. After absorbing the yellow sun energy, when facing the enemy's bullet attack, it is not only the steel body that plays a role. His equally enhanced sensory system also infinitely weakens the pain feedback caused by bullets. Therefore, this is the most perfect state in the entire evolutionary process. Just when Jonathan wanted to observe his wound further, the blood that was originally oozing out suddenly stopped flowing. The reddened subcutaneous tissue on both sides also began to resemble conscious worms, and grew a bunch of granulation at a very fast speed and then merged. In the blink of an eye, the wound was restored to its original state. This outrageous self-healing speed, even Jonathan, who has watched too many Marvel movies, feels a little abnormal. According to the current situation, Jonathan speculated that his ability could be derived into two possible states. The first is the regeneration of the broken limbs of the movie Deadpool and the little wolf girl Kimiko in The Boys, which is dominated by the main body itself. No matter what kind of damage, it is a macroscopic regeneration form based on the whole. Moreover, there are some limitations on the degree of regeneration here, that is, the speed of recovery and the temporary storage of will. After the Deadpool Wade and Kimiko were broken, they would temporarily lose the body function or consciousness of that part. Moreover, the initial body will progress from the juvenile to the complete body, not directly grow a new hand. The second is like the regular form of the Styx ancestor in the prehistoric world. As long as the sea of blood does not dry up, then, even if there is only one drop of blood left, the Styx can be resurrected. This resurrection mode covers microscopic separation and reorganization, which is a more extreme regeneration method. In extreme environments, Jonathan can even survive in high temperature and cold environments. Because as cells continue to increase, aging and necrotic cells will only be replaced, and infinite regeneration at the microscopic level can directly form an unreasonable organic cycle, allowing Jonathan to have stronger survival ability. Not only that, with the deduction of these two regeneration ability channels, in addition to the lifelong equality of the purple potato spirit of the Universal Family Planning Commission. As long as Jonathan doesn't go around casually, his chances of survival in Marvel are infinitely high. Of course, not going around here includes not provoking mysterious enemies such as Katamaki and the Divine Realm. You know, just a mirror space and a time gem can solve Jonathan's ability at the root. Don't look at Deadpool wandering around, it seems that nothing has happened, but his mental state is really a bit problematic. Without 10 years of cerebral thrombosis, you can't do all kinds of purple sand operations, not to mention that he may have death behind him. So, people in Marvel, no matter how strong the self-healing ability is in the early stage, you still have to kneel. If I am honest and develop slowly, it is only a matter of time before I become a self-healing strong man like Deadpool Wolverine. Moreover, now I have such a physique and self-healing ability, and I still have the 3 years of fighting skills learned from Rumlow in my mind. I estimate that my physical fitness is infinitely close to the level of the Special Forces King, but I still have to practice fighting skills. Now, what really limits Jonathan's growth is real fighting and life and death struggles. Fighting skills that rely solely on formulas are ultimately just talk. After summarizing his current abilities, Jonathan focused his attention on his card pool. According to the system's card drawing settings, his first guaranteed card can be drawn after 80 draws. And there are 3 card drawing opportunities every day, and they can be continuously stacked. At most, as long as you sign in for 27 consecutive days, you can get a guaranteed card once. And the card pool will be updated every month, and the cards in the pool will be refreshed every 2 months. In this way, as long as Jonathan does not die, he can get an SSR noun card every month. The guaranteed ability can be obtained in a year, and in addition to the guaranteed ability, you can get gold when you are lucky. Then the estimated ability peak can reach 15 or even more. Thinking of this, Jonathan suddenly felt that his future was bright. Although the golden finger came 3 years late, it was late but it was still a golden egg. Then let's see what good cards can be drawn today. Jonathan immersed his consciousness in the simulation panel and clicked on the noun card extraction page. At this time, the material column in the upper right corner of the page has been refreshed to 3 black noun draw tickets, and Jonathan simplified its name to black tickets. Jesus God Tathagata Buddha Guanyin Bodhisattva, I am your most loyal believer, please bless me to withdraw money. Jonathan recited all the gods he knew, closed his eyes and prayed, then suddenly opened his eyes and pressed the card draw. Swish, swish, swish. 2 green lights and a purple light flew over, and then turned into 3 cards of corresponding colors, corresponding to 2 R cards and 1 SR card respectively. Noun, paramecium. Type, microscopic card. Level, R. Details, hermaphrodite, a single-celled animal consisting of only 1 cell. Term 1. Cilia. After equipping this term, the user will grow cilia with auxiliary functions. Cilia can be controlled at will by the user's mind and can only be used in a liquid environment. Confirm the equipment. Yes, no. Noun. Vacuole. Type. Microscopic card. Level. R. Details. Bubble-like structure in the cytoplasm. Term 1. Storage. After equipping this term, the user will have the ability to store liquid or pigment. Confirm the equipment. Yes, no. Noun. Lysosome. Type. Microscopic card. Level. SR. Details. Digestive zone, that decomposes biomacromolecules such as proteins, nucleic acids, and polysaccharides. Term 1. Digestion resistance. After equipping this term, the ability user will enhance the digestion of invading substances. Confirm the equipment. Yes, no. Sure enough, there is no system in the world that is not a fraud. If you want to make money first, the probability is as low as my cheap dad becoming president tomorrow. But, these cards, although they don't look good, are not as practical as you think. Jonathan looked at the 3 cards lying in his backpack and analyzed them one by one. First, the cilia. If I encounter the Atlanteans in the future, they will come in handy. If I want to deal with King Namor, then swimming skills are essential, even though it's a bit vulgar. Jonathan found it hard to imagine himself growing cilia all over his body, and he didn't know what color the cilia would be. If they were flesh-colored, it would really make him lose his sanity. Vacuole. This ability is actually very practical. It can store liquids, and the concept of liquid covers a wide range. If I get thirsty while performing a mission or doing something, or if I use it to equip some corrosive liquids, it will definitely have an unexpected effect. Wonderful, the ending sound is elongated. In addition to the vacuole, this SR's ability feels pretty good. Fortunately, I listened carefully to biology class in high school in my previous life. Lysozyme bacteria can also digest and decompose pathogens. So, there is another hidden ability here, which is to be immune to bacteria. I don't know if it can be used for viruses. If that's the case, then can it be immune to all poisons? Quote. You know what? These noun cards, even the R-level ones, are not weak, although the appearance or ability is not very elegant. And, Jonathan's expression suddenly became serious as if he thought of something. Is there a possibility that these abilities can be derived? If there are only 2 entries, wouldn't it be too much? Is it limited? Jonathan thought of the devil fruit in the world of One Piece, and the name of the fruit corresponds to the noun. So the functions developed through imagination also correspond to the abilities in the entries. I only have the abilities of 2 entries, not to mention the disadvantages. Doesn't this make me look stupid? The system is really a profiteer. No, I must appeal. System, are the conceptual abilities derived from these noun cards restricted? Can they show their abilities through idealistic definitions like the devil fruit system in One Piece? The card drawing rules and entry content given by the system are fixed in principle. However, the generation of entries can be affected by the host or external forces, and is not directional. The host can explore on its own. So, I still have the right to manipulate. That's great. It seems that this is not the kind of S-type system that likes to enslave the host. If you really say so. Can Marvel's native abilities also be integrated with or mutated with my own abilities? Cell information recognition plus spider sense equals reconnaissance. Target cell targeting plus Hawkeye shooting equals absolute hit. Chloroplast photosynthesis plus sentinel equals multiverse no blue consumption sentinel. And this is not just a combination of personal abilities. What if it is some special substances? Gamma rays, soldier serum, heart-shaped grass, PIM particles, or even infinity stones. Brother, the main goal is to exceed the standard. Moreover, according to the information left by the system in his mind, Jonathan does not need to deliberately do tasks, or provide energy for the system by changing the Marvel plot. The main goal is to do whatever you want without being constrained by the system _. What erasure and punishment have nothing to do with you. This is the real free America. The golden finger that has been waiting for 3 years is still powerful, and the foundation for survival is also complete, but in the future, there are still many dangers waiting for you to face. The first crisis is the heaven-defying background of your own family, the Hydra that was exposed in advance. When a traverser comes to the Marvel world, according to their inertial thinking, what if they encounter Hydra? They will preconceivedly think that it is a chaotic, evil-based, and extremely threatening terrorist force to the world. I can't help but want to eradicate, erase, and lick the protagonist group by the way. But if a person is born into the Hydra family, what should he do? Jonathan will tell you. According to the memory of his predecessor, Hydra is a pseudo-religious force with a purpose that has been passed down for hundreds of years. It is organized, disciplined, and has a common program. And as a member of this family, you have no support behind you, and your elders have completely different ideas from you. Do you want to set things right alone? Oh, buddy, if you don't know, you would think you are Cheng Xin. When an organization has become an inherent form, forced transformation is impossible because their ideas are deeply rooted. Jonathan is facing this situation now. As Pierce's youngest son and one of the future heirs of Hydra, Jonathan is born in a high position, except for being at the top. Since Captain Popsicle Steve annihilated the old Hydra, the new Hydra has been quietly dormant in various parts of the world since then. Not only in the United States, but also all over the world, there are members of the Hydra organization active, from beggars begging on the street to high-ranking officials. Do you have this kind of penetration power in S.H.I.E.L.D.? If we really compare, when it comes to the loyal Hydra members who are like stamped with ideological steel, you S.H.I.E.L.D. are all traitors. A superhero supervision act can cause a civil war among you. Compared with S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra's pervasive agents, this decisive efficiency, this disciplined organization that never worries about backstabs, if it were really controlled by the ancient emperor, it would be a cute, charming, obedient snake. What black ice platform, Jinwei, Military Affairs Office. It's so weak. Okay. S.H.I.E.L.D., on the contrary, is more like a backstab expert who jumps behind the scenes and plots. So, Jonathan is 100% satisfied with himself for traveling through time and becoming a member of Hydra. Thank you for the invitation. People in Marvel never have to worry about backstabs, Davari. As the saying goes, everything is ready, only the east wind is missing. Cultivation pays attention to wealth, friends, methods, and places. Although Jonathan is probably not following the traditional system of cultivating immortals, he is obviously better than most of his peers who have traveled to Marvel in parallel worlds. Identity: the son of the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Red Hydra. Ability: not fixed, but it seems that there is no upper limit, the main focus is on evolution. Now, as long as Jonathan continues to sign in and draw cards every day, his ability will be continuously strengthened until he jumps out of the box, infinitely stacked, and finally even jumps out of the box. Of course, these are relatively future topics. At present, Jonathan's most important task is to deal with the crisis of Hydra's Thunderbolt, as well as the future New York War and other large-scale battles that are unknown to where they will affect. You know, Jonathan has come to the Marvel world now and has integrated with this world. It can be said that he is a local, the kind that Thanos can beat half to death with a snap of his fingers. Then, the original plot development of the Marvel world may change more with his arrival. Just like the wings of a butterfly, a hurricane may form in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean with a slight flap. If the original plot of Marvel changes, Jonathan's advantage as a time traveler will be completely gone. In order not to become a headless fly, Jonathan's main goal now is to integrate the entire Hydra in his own hands first, and continue to grow, so that he can have more helpers and troops under his command to allow him to calmly deal with the wars of all sizes in the future. I forgot to mention that Jonathan was a die-hard fan before he traveled to the Marvel world. To be precise, he is a science fiction fan who has a great interest in all kinds of movies and TV series with supernatural powers. Therefore, he is also familiar with Marvel's worldview and world line. Therefore, after traveling here, Jonathan was afraid that he would forget the plot, so he memorized the story plots and the approximate years of major events that he could remember, for fear that he would forget. Before activating the system, Jonathan was basically in the state of a pure primitive ordinary person, and his body was hollowed out by alcohol and girl. Therefore, he did not try his best to actively participate in the plot and actively obtain superpowers like those predecessors who traveled through time. Instead, he worked hard to exercise his body and improve his overall quality. To be honest, trying every means to participate in the plot and obtain the abilities of the protagonist is indeed a bit irrational in Jonathan's opinion. Why? The reason is, how do you know that you will not mutate the superpowers you accidentally obtain like the protagonist? Even die at the hands of these abilities. There are already enough chosen ones in the Marvel world. How do you know that there is a place for you, just because you are a traveler? Oh my goodness, isn't it a bit too narcissistic? It's not Peter Parker. Does he have antigens in his body that resist the fusion spider serum? Gamma rays. How small is the probability of a Hulk appearing? How can you be sure that you will not explode and die after being irradiated? Cherish every moment. Therefore, Jonathan never had such unrealistic ideas. The only thing he did was to train without distraction and improve the goodwill of his cheap father and the two Hydra agents. What a joke, random explosion or following the system, anyone with a discerning eye can tell. Jonathan returned to the room and began to recall the world plot. 2005. The timeline is based on this book, and the question is about the parallel world. According to memory, in 2005, Dr. Bruce Banner will be radiated by gamma rays at Gaohua University and mutated into a fat green man in pants. In the same year, Tony Stark was kidnapped in Kunar Province, Afghanistan, and built the Mark I armor to escape. Later, he started a battle with Obadiah, and finally proved the law that fatter and thicker armor always loses. But now, Jonathan looked for news on the internet and found that there was no news related to the Green Giant, and Playboy Tony Stark was kidnapped. This means that the current plot has not yet begun, and there is still room for me to manipulate. Then, how should I manipulate it? Jonathan looked at the tallest building in New York City not far away, Stark Industries building. Two cheap brothers, one is an undercover agent, and the other is a politician. So it should be okay for the younger brother to do business. Office of the Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. So you mean, Jonathan wants to start a company? Are you sure? Alexander Pierce asked in surprise on the phone. Yes, to also find it strange that Jonathan hasn't asked me for help for a long time. The last time was 3 years ago when he asked me for the personal contact information of a female congressman. Quote, has this troublesome brat finally changed? I don't know if he's serious. No. But anyway, it's good to exercise. As brothers, you can help him if you can. No problem, I'll contact Rolls-Royce. He just took office and now he has the final say in the Ministry of Commerce. Quote, the caller was Arthur, the eldest son who was pushed into Congress by Pierce, and also Jonathan's eldest brother. Adhering to the principle of keeping the money within the family and not taking advantage of others, Jonathan thought of this brother who had little presence the moment he conceived the idea. In the United States, it is not as fast as a congressman moving his fingers to set up a company. The people below can handle all the formalities, agreements, and registration deposits. Easy and easy, this is free America. On the next day, a company named Concept Technology Group was registered in New York, and the legal person was Jonathan Pierce. Concept Technology Company is the name of the company that Jonathan specially tailored for himself. The inspiration came from the Concept Quantum Extraction System he owned. Jonathan had two purposes for building this company. The first was to create capital in public and develop power in secret. You know, as the heir of the Hydra family, his every move is under the care, monitoring of the family. Therefore, his possible future actions, even the exposure of special abilities, need an open pretext to support. In such a big Marvel world, it is always possible to produce some mutations, right? It is also possible to set up a company to research and develop your own abilities. In addition to covering up, technology companies can also bring in some financial income. At the same time, if you have plans in the future, then technology companies can also come up with strength to meet the needs. This is the source of funds for the name and team. The second purpose is the real accumulation of strength. As a prophetic time traveler, in addition to Tony Stark who will become Iron Man in the future, Jonathan also knows that there are many scholars with extraordinary scientific research capabilities in the Marvel world. First, Dr. Bruce Banner who will become the Hulk in the future. This is a top researcher with doctoral degrees in nuclear physics, radiophysics, biochemistry, engineering, robotics, computer science and mathematics. Bruce Banner was also present when the second-generation super soldier serum was being studied. It was precisely because of the injection of the second-generation serum and the mutation of gamma rays that he became the Hulk. The second one is the mysterious Dr. Blue, who participated in the research of the Hulk serum in the plot of The Incredible Hulk. Don't look at this character in the original plot. But this doctor actually found a flower that can inhibit the proliferation of Hulk cells in the short term when Banner himself could not find any results. It is hard to imagine his hidden personal scientific research ability. In the comics, Mr. Blue even used Banner's blood to invent a serum that can temporarily restrain the Hulk's genes. As a result, he accidentally let Banner's blood flow into the wound on his head. His head absorbed huge radiation and produced strange mutations, so he gained superhuman intelligence. At the same time, his head became very huge, and later became one of the Hulk's mortal enemies, the Head, also known as the Big Boss. The third one, and what Jonathan thinks, is the most terrifying scientific research ability, Arnim Zola, who turned himself into a two-dimensional Dr. Zola. This carrot head, with a short stature and mediocre appearance during World War II, was recruited by the Mustache as a geneticist and worked under the Red Skull Schmidt. His scientific achievements include but are not limited to: for the first time in the Marvel world, the infinite gems were weaponized, the first generation of super soldier serum mutations were remedied, and the Winter Soldier was transformed. After joining S.H.I.E.L.D., he provided Howard with many inspirations, and uploaded consciousness to the computer to achieve pseudo-immortality. And these scientific research achievements of Dr. Zola were actually completed in the limited era of World War II until the modern era in just a few decades. Jonathan has every reason to think that if Dr. Dozola is given a few more decades, it will only be a matter of time before the Earth counterattacks Marvel. So, how can we recruit these scientific research experts? At this time, the cheap Father Pierce's connections are very useful. Sitwell, a famous bespectacled agent in Hydra, belongs to the intelligence department of S.H.I.E.L.D., and is responsible for the compilation and analysis of intelligence documents. S.H.I.E.L.D., Intelligence Bureau Office. Fury, the director's youngest son Jonathan, wants to help check a person called Dr. Blue. Oh, the company certificate that was just approved yesterday is his. What does he want to do? Find out before helping. Sitwell raised his glasses and looked at Nick Fury, who was 2 shades darker than him, with an inquiring look. Next to the black eye mask, the look revealed by the lone eye flashed with a little surprise. As the intelligence chief who is about to take the top position, Nick Fury is a confidant, promoted and cultivated by Pierce. After years of getting along, he is naturally very familiar with the 3 children under Pierce. Especially Jonathan, who is the most worrying. Thinking of the unreasonable black-haired young man who only yelled, "Black boiled eggs," Fury's face darkened again. 3 years ago, he wanted to get the contact information of all the female agents in the Bureau, and for some reason this guy inherited his mother's beauty gene. Few agents in the Bureau can control themselves. No other reason. Fury's main character is fear. Back then, if Pierce hadn't personally pulled out his Hermes belt to stop him, I'm afraid that Hill and Natasha would be the only 2 people in the Bureau who hadn't been Jonathan's girlfriend. Since then, Fury knew that nothing good would happen to anyone who had anything to do with this guy. Although he suddenly changed his personality in the past 3 years for some reason, he still had to make preparations. Strict investigation, must be strict investigation. So, when he heard Sitwell's question, Fury said this. The other party is just a civilian biological researcher. His home address is in the flower shop next to the New York Street Park. And he built a simple laboratory by himself. There is no entry and exit information in the past 6 months, and there is no bad record in the file. Good guy, pretending to ask me if you have actually checked the other party. You are still on the side of the boss when you were with me, right? How about you be the Minister of Intelligence? In his heart, Fury showed a calm expression, just nodded symbolically, and responded. Although he is Pierce's son, you still have to keep a close eye on him. If you find anything unusual, notify me immediately. It was in the afternoon. Samuel Stern, Dr. Blue, who was soaking in the laboratory, suddenly received an email from Concept Technology Company to recruit a biological research technician with a high salary, and the email attached a condition that he could not refuse. Own a personal laboratory and can mobilize the funds and resources of the entire group for research. Stern. There is no way, for a scientist, he gave too much. When Dr. Stern successfully moved in with his bag and began to work seamlessly. Jonathan's bag technology company was officially started. Then, if you want to open up competitiveness in the market and expand customer service sources, the entire company must launch a powerful technology product as the first shot on the market. Doesn't Stark Industries, which is about to sell weapons, use the Jericho strategic missile as the biggest selling point of the weapons department? With a larger laboratory and the resources of S.H.I.E.L.D. behind it and the Congressman's consortium, Jonathan believes that with this doctor's mind, it is only a matter of time to create a product. Therefore, after Dr. Stern moved in, Jonathan gave him full authority to manage the laboratory and resource allocation, and conduct research on the research and development field of biotechnology. After doing all this, Jonathan became a hands-off boss. At present, the scale of the company he founded is still small, and there is no need to recruit a large number of employees. What's more, recruiting people is all Hydra, so what's the point of recruiting wool? Jonathan directly transferred some scientific researchers and Hydra security guards from his cheap father to fill in the company. With these diligent and hardworking good employees, the boss is most assured. Thinking about this, Jonathan has already driven a supercar to a laboratory outside New York City. Just yesterday, Jonathan received an electronic reply from Bruce Banner. Dr. Banner did not directly agree to join the company, but wanted to have a face-to-face interview first, and then give his answer after a detailed conversation. For this scientist who has not yet turned into a green fat man and has 7 doctoral degrees, the condition of full control of the laboratory is obviously not tempting. You know, Banner has close cooperation with the military. In terms of resource mobilization, his shell company is really not so large. It is understandable that Banner wants to meet him. So Jonathan came here. But what surprised Jonathan was that there were no less than 3 bulletproof military vehicles outside this laboratory. Then, the fully armed special operations team quickly got off the car and surrounded the suited man who was suspected to be the leader, forming an encirclement. The suited man held a silver storage box in his hand, and his expression was serious. It seemed that he had something urgent to see Dr. Banner. Is this guy here to intercept? Should I say, this silver storage box looks a little familiar. Jonathan, who was standing in the distance, was a little nervous. The other party brought a fully armed team to the door. Fortunately, in order to leave a good impression on Dr. Banner, he parked the supercar behind the haystack 300 meters outside the laboratory. So the members of the team could not find his existence for the time being. Although he had the concept of cancer cells, Jonathan really didn't dare to guarantee it. He could still slip away smoothly after being shot with a hole by a submachine gun. He had not tested the healing time after the disability state. And even if a normal person comes, he will not be stupid enough to seek death the moment he gains the ability. That's a movie, not the real world. So, Jonathan plans to wait and see. On the other side, the man in a suit smoothed his collar, turned out the communicator hidden in his collar, and reported in a low voice. Director Fury, I have arrived at the door of Bruce Banner's laboratory. Can I send the cosmic cube in now? Is Dr. Banner inside the laboratory now? Yes. We have limited time. The secret of the cosmic cube cannot be known to anyone. Hand it over to Dr. Banner quickly and leave immediately. Yes. After receiving the order, the man in a suit was about to open the gate outside the laboratory. But he didn't expect a sudden change, and a golden bullet flew directly in front of him. Thank you for the generous gift. The next second, a cluster of blood splashed from his forehead, and then the whole person lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Psycho, what happened? Are you still there? Attack, attack. There is an enemy attack. Fight back. The members of the armed team immediately started to fight back with their guns when they saw the enemy attack. But it was obvious that their backs were exposed to the sun, and they were half a beat slower when they turned around. The speed of the bullet is much faster than 1.5 beats. Bang, bang, bang. Blood splattered everywhere. Seeing that the enemy's firepower was too fierce, Mark, the leading armed team leader, hurriedly picked up the silver storage box on the ground and ran into the laboratory. However, such an obvious action would expose the degree of exposure. Hundreds. Soon, the captain felt a sharp pain behind him. God, there is a sniper. In the last second of fainting, Captain Mark realized. The other party was obviously well prepared, and even had been ambushed long ago, waiting for them to come. The main strategy is to wait and see. But the only ones who knew this order were their team and Agent Siscott. It is impossible for anyone to know who leaked the information. Boom boom. At this time, a silver Bugatti Veyron suddenly appeared on the battlefield and drove straight to the direction where the armed captain fell. Sir, the other party wants to snatch the cosmic cube. Shit, where did the sports car come from? Ramones, is this how you do intelligence work? Wait for your dismissal. Sniper, hurry up, don't let the other party get the cosmic cube. It was Jonathan who suddenly drove out of the battlefield. After careful thinking just now, Jonathan suddenly remembered what was in the storage box. It was the decorative version of one of the Infinity Stones, the cosmic cube. When the enemy attacked, Jonathan was stunned. After thinking about it, he got in the car and rushed immediately. Now Jonathan has no time to care why the cosmic cube was sent to hand over to Dr. Banner. No time to understand why the cosmic cube was not thrown into S.H.I.E.L.D. for research at this stage, but ran here. The identities of this group of attackers who don't know the enemy and friend have too many possibilities. Jonathan can't guarantee what will happen to the cosmic cube in the hands of these people, he doesn't dare to gamble. This is beyond his understanding of the plot. As a time traveler, before he has absolute power, Jonathan is most afraid that the things he originally controlled will soar out of his sight like an exponential function. So, he can only gamble once. Bet on whether he can get the cosmic cube and escape back to his own S.H.I.E.L.D. base camp. So, the engine roared. Swish. The tires of the Bugatti Veyron rubbed against the ground, raising dust, and Jonathan twisted the steering wheel violently. The car body drifted, and the front of the car, which was originally balanced at both ends, began to slowly tilt to one side, until the door opened, and Jonathan directly grabbed the storage box and threw it on the co-pilot's seat, then stepped on the accelerator and pulled the speedometer pointer to the maximum. The start was a swift and fast one. Just when Jonathan thought he was about to drive out of the enemy's firepower coverage circle, suddenly a creepy feeling climbed up his nerves. It was an extremely cold feeling. Death omen. Who the hell brings an RPG out? With a violent explosion, Jonathan only felt a flash of blue light in front of his eyes, and then he lost his consciousness. Chief Pierce, the undercover plan was successful, but there was an accident. It's good that the plan was successful. Manson, what was the accident? Your son Jonathan was also at the scene and was hit by a rocket. What? After the explosion, Jonathan's eyes, which were about to close due to the disappearance of consciousness, caught the dazzling blue light that was released unscrupulously by the damaged opening of the storage box at the last moment. After the blue light escaped the storage cage, it quickly anchored Jonathan, who was closest to the position, like an arrow, and liquefied in a way defined by superphysics, pouring into his limbs like a stream of water. Is this going to die, or do you want me to take over the guarding of the soul gem from the Red Skull? As the explosion hit, the consciousness finally stopped because the organs carrying the function were dying, and then fell into silence. Drip, drip, click, click, outside the glass window of the intensive care unit, along with the operation of the electrocardiogram, there was also the sound of anxious wandering back and forth, and the sound of the heels of leather shoes hitting the ground. You are the patient's family member, right? I am Stephen Strange, who was in charge of the surgery just now. Yes, I am Alexander Pierce, and he is my youngest son Jonathan. How is he doing now? I am sorry, the patient's condition is not optimistic, but I found something very strange. The patient's brain nerves seem to be different from those of ordinary people. In comparison, they seem to be more immature. What do you mean? Although this is a bit unbelievable, I have never seen such strange symptoms in my many years of medical practice. But it does not rule out the possibility of gene mutation. His brain nerves are just like regenerated buds. Well, let me put it simply. For some reason, your son has escaped from the process of near-brain death and has grown new brain cells. So what do you mean? Jonathan can wake up. In theory, it is impossible to wake him up by force, because his new brain cells are currently recovering to the final mature stage, which may contain memories, habits, and even personality over the years. If you want to wake him up by force, you can only be prepared to welcome a 3-year-old adult baby. Quote. Okay, I have to do the next operation. Don't go in and disturb the patient until he recovers. You can only watch from the special window. Quote. Staring at Strange's white back as he left in a hurry, Pierce looked at Jonathan, who was on the bed with a breathing tube, with a complicated expression. Yesterday afternoon, he read the detailed report of the incident. Jonathan was hit by a rocket, but when he was rescued, he found that the wounds on his body were healing automatically, and his broken limbs were regenerated like a baby. The suspected culprit for the abnormality was the broken cosmic cube. The last time the cosmic cube caused such an accident on a person was decades ago, on a woman named Carol Danvers. Hydra didn't have the opportunity to study this kind of situation back then, but now it finally has, but the experimental subject is his own son. Since the death of the Red Skull, the entire Hydra has split into several factions, but compared with the past, it pays more attention to blood inheritance and branches. This is obviously not easy to give up. Thinking of this, Pierce turned his head to the other side. Rumlow, is the news of Jonathan's abnormality blocked? No one else knows, right? Quote. The rating team are all members of the organization. No one can leak it, including Dr. Strange, the neurosurgeon. We only presented a part of Jonathan's abnormality. Well, the secret of Jonathan's regeneration cannot be known to anyone, including Nick Fury. It is classified as top secret. How are the people in that team now? Solved. Well, Rumlow, send someone to keep an eye on Jonathan and don't let any news leak out. Yes. Quote. At this time, on the other side, Jonathan was lying on the hospital bed. His eyes, which were originally tightly closed, slowly opened a small gap, and a blue light flashed by. Comatose or awake, it is better to say that it is a pseudo-dream between the two. Jonathan's entire mind is now in a trance, vaguely, falling for a while, and floating for a while. He felt that he was in a barrier space full of dark blue tones, and the space was filled with the smell of cleaning agents. No matter where this smell came from, Jonathan's drifting seemed to have found an anchor point, and at the end of the anchor point, there was a dark green light door with flashing shadows. Compared with the surrounding blue-dyed dark tones, it seems that walking towards the light door is the only way to transcend this state. So, following the intuition, Jonathan's spirit floated before the door closed, and directly hit the unknown behind the door. Bang! Tampered with by unknown energy. The underlying data and logic of the system are reconstructed. Reconstructed into, the system update has been activated. Special term, quantum, type, microscopic card. Level, details, if a physical quantity has the smallest indivisible basic unit. Entry 1, Schrödinger's cat. Entry locked, without observation interference, the cat's survival probability is between quantum superposition, and life and death are in different worlds. The ability user will be given the ability to observe parallel worlds and connect to the descending isotope. Term Article 2, Wave-particle duality. The term has been locked. Observation randomly affects the form, and the two are unified. The observation and advent abilities of the ability users are given randomness. Jonathan poured a lot of spirit into another space, and the sound coming from the depths of his consciousness became smaller and was ignored for a short time. More spiritual consciousness broke through multiple layers of shackles in an instant, and countless barriers were violently torn apart and penetrated by the dark green power that wrapped Jonathan's consciousness. In the deep space, Loki Lawfason, you have crossed the line. You destroyed the soul-catching net of the single universe. Under a world tree standing at the end of time, a man with dark green horns sat on a golden throne, looking at the giant face of the Trinity emerging in the void, and smiled indifferently. You know the living tribunal, but this is a variable. This is just once, and it will never happen again. He. When he transcends the multiverse and interferes with the omnipotent universe, it will not be just this time, right? Quote. Quote. The giant face disappeared, and the restless branches and leaves around the world tree fell silent. The camera suddenly turned. Flash, continuously flashing, the broken memory fragments were reconstructed, the body adapted, and the consciousness returned to its original state. Swoosh. Jin Tong, wake up quickly. The handsome man lying unconscious on the ground suddenly opened his eyes, and a blue light flashed in his pupils. What is this for? Is this still China? Just as the man was scratching his head and found that the surrounding environment was not right, his dull eyes happened to meet the cold and beautiful woman in front of him. Luke, please, look at me. Golden boy, are you okay? The noise from the outside world hit, and Jonathan's trance was punctured by reality like a bubble floating on the water, and his consciousness returned to the main body. The white face slowly approached, a gloved hand gently supported the chin, and the deep brown eyes were filled with concern and love. Faced with this sudden scene, Jonathan subconsciously dodged to the side alertly, and waited until he recovered, and then looked around. Well, a lively bar with an unknown DJ. And the other two people standing and looking at him. A black man with an average appearance, and a short-haired woman who looked Asian. Looking at these three extremely familiar faces, Jonathan was sure that these faces had never appeared in Marvel. So, did he travel through time again? Thinking of crossing, the fragments in his mind seemed to trigger some keywords, and with the faint pain in his temples, countless latent memories began to invade. Let me stay alone for a while. Jonathan refused the woman's support, staggered to the booth next to him with the wine, and then closed his eyes. On the surface, he was taking a nap due to the alcohol, but in fact, Jonathan was digesting the memories in his mind with an unchanged expression. When the pain in his temples disappeared, Jonathan finally merged all his memories and understood everything. At the moment of the rocket explosion, the cosmic cube placed beside him suddenly cracked, and the scattered space energy rushed directly into his body and was absorbed by the system by chance. The system also derived new abilities due to the influence of space energy. One is that it can observe various parallel worlds and cross in the form of descending to the isotope of that world. It can be said that the isotope of each parallel world is Jonathan himself, and coming to other worlds is like changing a vest. It is worth mentioning that once Jonathan replaces the isotope of the plane, the appearance, body, memory, identity and even the world will recognition of the original isotope will merge with the original body and modify the reality. The original body in the Marvel world is in an unconscious state, and the body functions normally. Another ability is to judge the world you travel through with the concept of randomness. However, the unlocked world and the original world can be linked to each other, which means that Jonathan can return to the body of the Marvel world by himself, and can also come back to the unlocked world at any time. Not only that, the space attribute of the space gem also forced a space plug-in into the system function, so that Jonathan can have a theoretically infinite system space in the future, whether it is living or dead things. Pay attention, what this means is that you can bring people. According to the update information brought by the system and the combination of the isotope's memory, Jonathan came to the V generation plane 2 years ago this time. You may not understand this world alone, but this is a derivative world that merges the worldview of the boys. A team of ordinary people subverts the worldview of superheroes headed by giant babies. V generation tells the main story of Godokan University, a superhero training university in the United States, where students face human nature, compete for the highest university rankings, and join the Super 7 team, a superhero team of Vought Corporation. The good news is that this world has compound number 5 manufactured by Vought Corporation in its temporary 24-hour trial version. This compound number 5 can give permanent superpowers with certain side effects. Although this superpower is random, compound number 5 can restore the injured injector. No matter what the situation is, this little effect has more advantages than disadvantages. Of course, this is for the Marvel world. With these, Jonathan has the confidence to form his own real team, and it is not false to fight against the big events of Marvel in the future. However, the bad news is that he has become the Golden Boy, Luke Riverdon, who blew himself up in the first episode, which is much different from his treatment in Marvel. Although this guy has always been ranked first in the school, his psychological quality is really not good. He collapsed directly when he found some abnormalities, and killed the university professor without saying a word. In the end, he died, giving all the teachers and students in the school fresh brains and blood for free. Jonathan's mouth twitched when he thought of the memory of the original book. This is not the most outrageous. This guy was even cuckolded. After his death, his delicate blonde girlfriend was seduced by the black guy next to him, and this affair started a year before the official plot began. You widows, did you learn the plot from Japan? Fortunately, it is 2 years before the plot begins, and nothing has happened. The troublemaker heroine has not yet been admitted to Godokan University, and the girlfriend of the previous incarnation is still sweet and loyal. There are many places to operate. Jonathan traveled to this isotope, and did not inherit the original body's ability to explode clothes, control fire, fly, and enhance defense. The world will corrected his ability to the same extreme self-healing and extreme attribute enhancement as the original ability. As for the title of Golden Boy, it is probably because he has been able to withstand beatings since he was a child. Thumbs up. The current plot of the big world is in The Boys, when Homelander announced the death of the Invisible Man, and the protagonist group is currently in a state of hiding. In the Superhero 7 team, Shanghai was exiled to Ohio because of a scandal, and the locomotive was seriously injured and unconscious. At present, there are only 4 people left in the team: Homelander, Queen Maeve, Black and Starlight. 7 is missing 3, so the remaining positions in the team are very popular. Only by joining the Super 7 can you get the source information and channels of Compound Number 5, and as the most popular person in the Academy, Jonathan is in the best time to get to the 7. Thinking of this, Jonathan sobered up a lot. "Luke, are you feeling better?" Looking for the source of the voice, Jonathan looked up and saw that the person coming was his real girlfriend, Kate Dunlap, the most beautiful person in the original drama and a person with mind control ability. Chapter 11. Kate Dunlap, with the most beautiful appearance, has the ability to see through other people's minds, modify or add memories, and even use words to make others obey her. The condition for triggering the ability is to touch with the hand, and there are certain restrictions on its use. Therefore, in order not to trigger the ability at any time and cause the brain to overclock, Kate usually wears black gloves to isolate the touch and prevent the ability from starting automatically. This is exactly the same as the setting of Queen Elsa in Frozen. But this does not mean that Jonathan likes this ability. Anyone who has a little secret in his mind will never be happy for someone to check his memory at will, let alone add or modify it. If it were placed in other worlds, this would definitely be the mortal enemy of any high-ranking person, and he must get it by any means, and if he can't get it, he will destroy it. It is obviously impossible not to cause a bloody storm. In the original book, Kate has modified Luke's memory more than once, and other people in the protagonist group are considered black gloves, who help the school boss behind the scenes. Jonathan was not sure whether his memory could be touched and explored by Kate. After all, it was related to the secrets of the 3 worlds: reality, Marvel, and Black Robe, and even the most secret existence of the Traversers and the system. Since the first day he came to Marvel, Jonathan began to keep all his secrets about the system and the Traversers in his stomach. Unless he wanted to, no one could know the content. Therefore, Jonathan was very afraid and vigilant of Kate's ability. Although judging from the current state of the world, the two were in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and physical contact was inevitable, he could not show abnormal reactions because of this. Because he was the golden boy, Luke at that time, for people with telepathic perception, the changes in the pillow person were the most obvious. Once his state was different from before, the other party would sooner or later suspect him, and it would be difficult to end at that time. At this point, let's take it one step at a time. I feel better, but I'm still a little dizzy. Why don't you go drink first? You should always drink to your heart's content. What? Hearing Jonathan's words, Kate's pretty face flashed a trace of astonishment, and then she looked at Andrew, the black guy, and Jordan standing next to her, and found that they were also confused. Ah, Luke, you gathered us here, didn't you say you wanted to tell us something? Andrew asked Jonathan in confusion. Sorry, I forgot just now. It's not a big deal, you drink first, I'll tell you later. Jonathan glanced at Andrew meaningfully. This guy is the Black Limited Goblin who will cuckold his predecessor, oh no, himself, in the future, so Jonathan naturally doesn't like him. It's only been a few days since my good friend's body was cold, and he's already hooking up with his sister-in-law, saying that he loves his best friend very much, and even shed a few tears for his good friend. Well, you've done everything for me, so what should I do? According to memory, the original, Luke, was going to tell them about the speculation about the forest. But as expected, this explanation was useless. After all, few of the protagonists in the plot remembered this. This is most likely the work of his real girlfriend, Kate. In the original book, the code named Forest is a prison secretly built at Godolphin University to detain superhumans. In addition, many scientific researchers were recruited in this prison for experimental testing, including Luke's brother Sam, a low-profile green fat man. The purpose of studying and testing superhumans is to study superhumans and create a virus that can kill all superhumans. As for why all superhumans were killed, we have to talk about the incident of Homelander and Queen Maeve rescuing a hijacked plane a year ago. At that time, the Homelander found that the captain of the plane accidentally killed himself. He did not have an orthodox superhuman biological position, so he could not rescue the entire plane with his own ability. And rescuing only some people would still leave a stain of, why not rescue all, and once there is a stain, his poll approval rate will drop by countless percentage points. But this is obviously extremely unacceptable to Zubao, who is extremely vain. So, he let the plane crash, and claimed to the outside world that he was late, because of the delay in notification from the National Defense, and intended to help the former President Madeline to enter the superhuman into the National Defense. Later, the VOT group also covered up this matter. But, by coincidence, the president of Godokan University, Indira Shetty, she was also an insider of Walter, and her family happened to be on the plane at that time. So since then, Shetty vowed to make the superhuman blood debt pay with blood. Not only that, she also used drugs to control Kate and used it to make her do things for herself. The subsequent plot was largely caused by Kate, the Black Glove, secretly taking action. Fortunately, the current time period is 2 years ago, and everything is in its infancy, and there is still hope. As for the woods, with Kate on the side, there is no point for Jonathan to say it. Instead of being trapped in this small university, it is better to stand in the worldview of the entire, the boys, to make a bigger operation, but before that, the superhuman virus must be solved. After all, Jonathan himself did have the idea of injecting compound number 5. After the evolution of the system by the space gem, Jonathan has a better understanding of his cheap system. First of all, the system is not a means set by an unknown strong man who is extremely powerful, it can only be regarded as a tool that can be used. Moreover, it is not a fixed program, but will be affected by the outside world, and even merge with one's own abilities and transform into new abilities. According to the system's daily check-in, 3 times a day, the cards that have been checked in these days are basically ordinary cards of our level, which are not very useful in actual combat. If you want to get SSR, let's say the novice pool, it will take more than 20 days. If you leave the novice pool later, it will be fixed for 60 days, which means that you can get SSR ability once every 2 months. This is a life-saving skill. In addition to this, external object enhancement is also a path of evolution. You know, others say that relying on external forces is not as strong as oneself, that's others. But Jonathan just got stuck with a bug that external forces enhance himself, plus the immortality of cancer cells. No matter how much he enhances himself, he basically can't die. So, this also eliminates the damage caused by so many side effects. It's just too perfect. Thinking of this, Jonathan slowly put the wine glass on the ground, and then gently said to everyone, "Do you want to join the 7? Luke, what are you talking about? What do you mean?" This short sentence stunned everyone like thunder. "Don't you want to join? Hey, Luke, such big news, could it be that Professor Brinkerhoff revealed the matter about the 7 to you?" Andrew asked excitedly. From freshman to junior year, he has been shrouded in the shadow of the intervention of his superhero father, the bipolar man. If there is really a way to join the 7, he is definitely the most excited one. Well, the news does not come from the professor. I have my own way. It depends on whether you are interested. System, draw a card. Jonathan sat in the room, tapping the leather of the sofa with his knuckles in a regular manner, his eyes looking straight ahead. It was an electronic light screen that only he could see. Swish, swish, swish. It was still a combination of 2 green lights and 1 purple light. The first 2 green light cards were lactic acid bacteria and penicillium. The practicality of these R cards was not even as good as the flagella and vacuoles drawn before. The former could probably be used to make yogurt, while the latter did not seem to be of much use. So Jonathan did not pay much attention to them and threw them into his backpack to collect dust. However, the SR card drawn by the purple light attracted Jonathan's attention. Noun, anaerobic. Type, microscopic card. Level, SR. Details, a type of microorganism that can survive and reproduce in an oxygen-deficient environment. Term 1. Hold your breath and concentrate. After equipping this term, the user will strengthen his mental power barrier under the condition of holding his breath, and can greatly enhance the sympathetic nerve responsibility of the whole body. Are you sure to equip it? Yes, no. Just now I was afraid of Kate, and now I have this ability. Isn't it like a pillow for you when you are sleepy? Isn't it easy to get it? Thinking of this, Jonathan equipped it without hesitation. At the same time, he tried to hold his breath. It was an inexplicable repulsive force produced from his body, and turned into a clear stream into Jonathan's brain, and every sympathetic nerve in his body. Jonathan could clearly feel that his thoughts and emotions were instantly suppressed like a sinking water, and at the same time, his sympathetic nerves throughout his body were beating enthusiastically. Very good, the ability is effective. With a sigh of relief, Jonathan pulled out of the strange state. He held his breath for 2 minutes. Through this deliberate test, he found that this, holding breath and concentrating, state is proportional to his breath-holding time, and there is no time-cooling limit. In theory, as long as he does not lose his breath, he can always maintain this state. How about going back to Kunlun to practice the turtle breathing technique? So far, this is a real noun card that affects his concrete reality. The infinite proliferation of cancer cells before strengthened his body in a gradual process, which can only be regarded as the foundation of the empty space infrastructure. Therefore, if the two are superimposed, it will become an effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. Squeak. The door of the bathroom opened, and the steaming water mist inside spread out with the opening of the space, revealing a graceful and slender figure. Luke, what are you thinking about? Kate, wrapped in a bath towel, tiptoed out of the bathroom and walked towards Jonathan. It has to be said that Kate is the beauty of this drama and even this world, with long golden hair and perfect facial features. Under the butterfly bone, the white skin and the well-proportioned and slender figure complement each other, and the whole person reveals a cold and elegant atmosphere. Even Jonathan, who has seen many beauties in the Marvel world, couldn't help but look at them a little crazy. Fortunately, Jonathan is not the kind of person who can't walk when he sees beauty. At this time, he just noticed that the black gloves that Kate wore with isolation abilities were gone. I don't know if it was a tacit understanding with the previous couple. Kate obviously understood Jonathan's eyes, so she hurriedly said, "It's okay, honey, I can barely control my ability now. I won't use my ability on you, believe me, okay." As she said, Kate crossed her hands and hung them on the back of Jonathan's neck, and then sat on him directly. "So Luke, you said you wanted to join the Super 7, can I do it too?" As she spoke, Kate's beautiful brown eyes flashed with deep affection. This made Jonathan seem a little uneasy. Although Jonathan was a replacement, latecomer, the original owner's feelings for Kate in his memory were extremely sincere, and this was inherited by Jonathan, and this could not be faked. But no matter what, such a memory is more like a god's perspective, the feeling of watching the whole movie. Therefore, Jonathan did not have a preconceived idea that he had to perfectly fulfill the original owner's responsibilities to Kate after inheriting the memory. He preferred that the two of them naturally develop feelings, rather than foolishly taking advantage of it like a scapegoat. What's the difference between that and playing with weapons? You have to plant grass slowly. Although the feelings are not yet in place, you can't show alienation and reveal flaws, so Jonathan can only take advantage of it, which is a little unnatural's response. The current members of the Super 7 are incomplete. The locomotive is seriously injured, the deep sea is exiled to the suburbs, the Invisible Man is also dead. Therefore, they cannot assemble a complete team in a short period of time, and the rule of 7 people on the lighthouse is fixed, and VOT will also start internal recruitment. Therefore, we are direct future graduates of Godokan University. Deep Sea and Locomotive also graduated from the school. We have every chance to take these 3 positions. But Luke, these 3 positions are not guaranteed by us. Godokan University generally sends the first-ranked personnel to the VOT group as the advancement target. But, as I told you before, the last first-ranked blind man who graduated has disappeared since he entered VOT. Luke, I think there may be many obstacles to joining the 7-man team. The key is that our current reputation is not enough. I am afraid. Hearing this, Jonathan realized that the current Kate is much more innocent than the future Kate in the plot, and is not as extreme and suspicious as the subsequent one. Although Kate in the original book looks like the Queen of the Sea, she is actually a thoughtful and sentimental woman. Before that, she was only controlled by the principal Shetty with drugs and did not officially participate in the subsequent plot. Therefore, she is now just an innocent girl who is ignorant and has beautiful expectations and fantasies about the future. Just like Xingguang practiced skills since childhood and dreamed of becoming a member of the 7-man team. This is exactly what Jonathan wants to see. After all, the predecessors planted trees and the descendants enjoyed the shade. Before that, it was Jonathan who planted the trees and enjoyed the shade himself. As long as he watched it, Kate would not become crazy. The channel I'm talking about is not from within the water group. According to the internal promotion rules of the water group, it may take me a long time to get a seat in the Super 7. But, what if I borrow the power of the outside world and leave Godokan University? I guarantee that there will definitely be seats for both of us in the Super 7. But, there are already 2 female seniors in the Super 7. Would it be bad to add another one like me? Because the previous combinations of the 7 of them were regular. Who said it's not possible? At this moment, Jonathan suddenly began to flash through the original plot. It was Storm, an old woman with a half-shaved hairstyle with her hair cut to the right. She looked like she was 30 years old, but she was actually in her 80s or 90s. She had the ability to control lightning and fly, and her body was very strong and powerful, and she also had hidden self-healing abilities. Even Aza's laser spotlight was fine. This old woman was not simple. She married a Nazi during World War II, and her husband later established the VOD group. Since the fascists were defeated, she has been looking for a god on earth, superhuman, to lead her and her people to a new leader position and then rush to the top of the world. Just like when the mustache stood on the high platform and used a microphone to transmit the highlights of the Berlin voice to all parts of the world. Not only that, Storm is also an extreme racist. She hates and even despises ordinary humans, superhumans and other ethnic groups, and regards other ethnic groups as inferior grass, and is extremely selfish. Therefore, Jonathan, as a descendant of the Yellow Emperor in his previous life, was extremely disgusted with such women. Storm wanted to join the Super 7, but he had to ask him if he agreed. As for how to operate it, Jonathan now has some ideas in his mind. Borrowing a sentence from Zhu Shang, a university scholar in the Ming Dynasty, admonishing Emperor Hongwu. Build high walls, store up food, and slowly claim the throne. Jonathan is about to travel to this world, so he must seek the maximum benefit for himself before leaving. However, with his current size and ability, it is obviously not enough to seek the best benefits. So at this time, the environment where V generation and the boys are intertwined and seem to be intertwined but not touched comes in handy. What Jonathan has to do is to remove himself as the center point and put the plan on other plot characters, one link after another, and finally achieve his desired goal. To put it bluntly, it is to hide in the dark, act as a passerby behind the scenes, throw bricks to attract jade, conceal the truth, and kill people with borrowed knives. But Luke, where did you get the channel? As far as I know, you don't have much intersection with other people. Could it be that Professor Brinkerhoff introduced the candidate? Kate was a little confused. Although she loved Luke very much, she always felt that her boyfriend was a little bit wrong from his performance in the bar today until now. It is said that people with mind control and induction abilities are the strongest detail control. Even if it is out of intuition, Kate seems to feel something, but can't say what specific changes there are. Compared to Luke's previous impetuousness, now it seems to be more reserved and calm. Could it be that I often modify my memory, which leads to personality problems? Kate's worry was raised again. She didn't know whether Luke's change was good or bad. Now she didn't want to use her psychic ability to check Luke's memory, because she had modified her memory many times before under the tyranny of Principal Shetty. Therefore, Kate always felt guilty about Luke, and naturally loved Luke deeply. So since the last memory modification, Kate has made up her mind not to use her psychic ability on Luke easily. Shish, this is a secret. Don't worry, I will bring you good news, leave it to me, honey. You will graduate in 1 year, pay more attention to your studies and brand effect, and maintain your second place ranking. This will be very helpful to us. In the world of the boys, what are the prerequisites for a superhuman to enter the Super 7? First, fame. Second, commercial gimmicks and hype. Ironically, the qualification of the 7 team has nothing to do with personal ability and strength. For specific examples, see the firecrackers, who have first-class hype ability in the follow-up. A woman who can only make sparks with a snap of her fingers, but sat in a 7-seater seat, just because she has these 2 characteristics, which hit the heart of the water group directly. Regardless of whether firecrackers or the chess pieces secretly placed by Queen Maeve after her retirement, in essence, she is still an investment of the water group. Edgar, the executive president of the water group, once said to the arrogant Zubao in the original book, "Superhumans are just products launched by the water group. No matter how strong their superpowers are, they are always centered on making profits for the water group and attracting mass traffic." And this is exactly the same as the national conditions of America. Early the next morning, Jonathan came to Professor Brinkhoff's office. "Professor, I heard that you are also a non-staff employee of the water group. I would like to ask, do you have the contact information of other employees of the group?" "Haha, little golden boy, you are enlightened. Although you are ranked first in the school, your popularity is not as high as before. Contacting the employees of the group, you want to borrow their strength to seek help, right? Quote, do you think that the academy can't help you much?" Professor Brinkerhoff said, and his original smile was restrained. "Of course not. What I mean is that if I can get first-hand information about the Super 7 team, then I will have a good control of my public opinion." Quote, "Oh, is that so? Of course, but remember that the academy is the one that really focuses on training you. Here, this is the contact information of some of the group's employees. I crossed out Mr. Edgar at the top for you. He is usually busy, so don't bother him." Quote, Professor Brinkerhoff handed a list to Jonathan and patted him on the shoulder. "Little golden boy, the academy is very optimistic about you, and I hope you won't let us down. Don't worry, Professor Brinkerhoff, maybe you can see me in the Super 7 team before I graduate." Quote, "I hope so too, ha ha ha." Coming out of the professor's office, Jonathan compared the names on the list one by one, and finally stopped at a name called Ashley Barrett. "The strongest worker, I found you." In the women's restroom of the water group, even the toilet was wiped to reflect light. Ashley Barrett, who was dealing with the major events of her life, was holding her mobile phone and watching the video of the speech of the motherland at the memorial service for the Invisible Man. Before she watched for a few minutes, an unfamiliar phone number called her mobile phone. "Whose call is it? Don't you know it's non-working hours?" "Hello, this is Ashley, what can I do for you?" The respectful and careful response was in stark contrast to the boredom she had just felt. Although Ashley hated the phone call that took up her rest time, as a working elite, it is a necessary self-cultivation for every working person not to hit someone who smiles. "Ashley, you should be the assistant to Vice President Madeline, right?" "Yes, what's the problem?" The face full of business smiles suddenly withered. Originally, Ashley thought it was an internal emergency call notification, but from the other party's tone, the other party was not very sure of her identity. It felt that something was fishy. "It's you, right? Listen to me next. Ashley, do you have any idea of getting promoted?" "No." What did you say?" Ashley wanted to refuse subconsciously, but she didn't expect her pupils to shrink, and the other party's words were even a little scary. "Who are you? You can influence the personnel transfer of the water group. Are you an insider?" "This is a very stupid question, Ashley. If I were not an insider, I don't think this call would have reached you. You should know that only insiders are eligible to obtain the contact information of water employees. Ashley, it seems that I have to re-evaluate your qualifications for promotion." "Hey, boss, I will listen to you, please give me your orders. What do I need to pay?" Although Ashley mostly exists as a funny character, she was able to climb up step by step from the original plot and finally get out of it unscathed, which shows that she is not a simple character and should not be underestimated. It is almost impossible for pie to fall from the sky in America. You have to give up before you can get it. Ashley understands this truth. You will receive a notice to take up your post soon. What you need to do is very simple. You should know Godokan University, right? It's the superhuman school where Shanghai and Locomotive graduated. I want you to get as many of the top 3 people in the school as possible into the Super 7. Hearing the answer, Ashley, who was very smart, immediately guessed what position she would be promoted to. The other party's authority seems to be greater than she thought. But boss, now locomotive is seriously injured and unconscious, Shanghai has gone to Ohio, and only the invisible man died, but the first two are still in the team. It's obviously not easy to add new members. We will have someone to handle this, remember my conditions. Okay, boss, I will try my best. After hanging up the phone, Ashley's nose was up, and her hands were shaking with excitement. Maybe tomorrow, she will be able to sit in the office responsible for the 7-man team. This is the position she has always dreamed of. On the other side, Jonathan put down the phone, picked a plainclothes from the closet, put it on, and walked out of the dormitory. My girlfriend Kate's schedule conflicts with mine. She has to go to class early in the morning. However, I am currently a senior who is about to graduate, so I basically have very few classes. This place is also different from the real world. The seniors in real life have already entered the social animal stage in advance. They are either looking for internships or half-stepping into the ranks of part-time jobs. Here, there are no so-called internships. After graduation, the superhuman graduates have only one goal. Either be selected by scouts to join the exclusive entertainment company of superhumans as a star, or enter the water company, combining entertainment and fighting criminals. Relatively speaking, senior superhuman graduates are very free. After all, they are either looking for traffic or on the way to create public opinion. No one cares what you do after leaving school. So, Jonathan, who is ranked first in the school and is very popular in school and on the internet, who put on a mask to prevent others from recognizing him, quickened his pace and came to a video store in the city center. Hello, do you need a disc? The single photo of Starlight, Queen Maeve and Homelander are all available in the adult DV store. Do you want one? This video store is so fancy. Forget Zubao and Maeve, Starlight seems to have not turned into a skull face yet. Kardashian's aesthetics are really poisoning women. I really can't appreciate it. No need. I want to ask, is Huey here? Wait, you're asking Huey? That fool resigned after screwing up my store, and you actually want to find him? Manager, I think you should have his contact information, right? Yes, but whether he will answer the phone is another matter. I don't know what happened to Huey, this fool, he suddenly became so decadent. I heard that he got over Luo Bin's death and found a new girlfriend. Young the world of people. Before the owner of the video store finished sighing, Jonathan came out with the copied phone number and dialed the number button at a corner of the street. Ding ling ling, ding ling ling. In the dirty and dim basement, Huey was half lying on a bed made up of shelves with his upper body naked, holding a bottle of cheap whiskey in his left hand, his eyes dazed. On the TV facing him, Starlight was wearing combat clothes and singing happily on the stage built by the Water Group. Looking at the familiar figure on the TV, Huey took another big sip of wine and then laughed at himself. Hey, Huey, your phone. At this time, the short-haired man wearing a windproof goggles put the wrench he was holding into his overalls with one hand, and then threw the ringing phone to Huey with the other hand. Frankie, don't break it. Quote, Huey grabbed the flying mobile phone and opened his tipsy eyes. An unknown phone number was displayed on it. Please keep your voice down. I have a phone call. Hello, this is Huey Campbell. Huey, right, I have some secrets to tell you. Can you make sure you are alone with me? Oh, okay, I'll go outside to talk. Hearing this, Huey sobered up halfway. No one usually knows him. The only people who can call him and talk about things are Daddy Starlight and other team members. So, this is definitely not a trivial matter. What, are you serious? Is there really such a virus in Godokan University? And there is also compound number 5 in that place. Really? Great, is this news true? Quote, Huey became extremely excited when he heard the news on the phone, and he shouted out loud. Since Butcher's disappearance, the entire Black Robe Patrol has been in a state of being leaderless, and he vaguely feels that he seems to have a chance to lead the direction of the team. As a pure ordinary person who was introduced into the team halfway, Huey has always wanted to get rid of the label of waste, and wanted to play a role in the team and be a real man. Therefore, he often secretly met with Starlight Annie, and then tried to get compound number 5 in the core laboratory of the Water Group. However, Since the CEO Edgar took office, the control of the entire laboratory has become particularly rigorous, so he has not had any clues recently and was in a decadent state for a time. The good news brought by the phone was undoubtedly a shot in the arm for him. "Oi, fool sons, your dad is back." Quote. Just then, a familiar voice sounded from behind Huey. After hearing the strange sound, Huey turned his head sharply, and Em and Frankie, who were standing in the distance, also drew their guns alertly and pointed them at the stairs behind Huey. "Sons, long time no see. You gave me such a big gift right after you came back, Dad is very flattered." The bearded man on the steps twisted his neck and threw his luggage on the ground. "Butterfield, where have you been for so many days? If you can't tell, I don't mind putting your face into the ass of the farm pig. You know, Frankie and I have been working as black doctors here for half a month." MM's black face became even darker. "Hee, don't be impulsive. Everyone, calm down. I don't know if you heard the call from the little slug Huey, but I seem to have heard something different." Hearing Butcher's words, and Frankie put away their guns and looked at each other. "Huey, when did it happen?" Guys, I confess. I seem to have received some incredible information. I think it will be very helpful for our future actions. I originally wanted to tell you after the call." Looking at the three people with unfriendly faces, Huey suddenly stuttered nervously. "Oh, give me the phone." Busha raised his eyebrows, snatched the phone from the reluctant Huey, and put it on his right ear. "Oi, idiot who is a mouse on the phone, you'd better repeat what you just said to Huey to me, otherwise I have 100 ways to make you eat Siberian female cockroaches in the public toilet the next morning." As he said, Butcher showed his signature evil smile on his face. "Do you understand?" Jonathan on the other end of the phone heard the familiar British swear words and couldn't help laughing. Butcher Billy Butcher is still the same as in the original book, with a mouth full of shit. If you talk to him and get angry because of these words, then you lose. But Jonathan was really curious. With his foul mouth, how could a zoo bear not to kill him? "Haha, you must be Butcher. Do you want to see your wife Becca?" "Becca, do you know where she is?" "How do you know Becca? Tell me where she is." As soon as he mentioned his wife's name, Butcher's anger burst out, and he punched the railing of the stairs, his eyes bursting with cruelty. Becca has always been his hard knot, and the source of his support for forming the Black Robe Patrol. If there is any threat to Becca, he will do whatever it takes to completely wipe it out of this world. "Butcher, why don't we make a deal? Don't try to be mysterious. What do you want?" "It's actually very simple. Help destroy Godokan University's secret laboratory, Forest. This is the only condition. In return, I will give you Becca's address and a new bottle of compound number 5. As for the subsequent cooperation, we'll talk about it later." New compound number 5. What is that? When you get it, you'll know its effectiveness. "Seno fu fool, you'd better not play tricks. If I don't receive these two things by then, I will twist your entire head off and stuff it into the largest septic tank in New York. Don't doubt the authenticity, I mean what I say." Then, happy cooperation. After saying that, Jonathan hung up the phone with the foul-mouthed Butcher. It's okay to listen to these foul words occasionally, but if you listen to them for a long time, your brain will be polluted, and you will even be assimilated into a foul-mouthed person in the end. It's chilling to think about it. In total, Jonathan has actually distributed 3 main lines. The first one is on Ashley's side. Originally, Ashley was recommended by the Motherland in the plot and became the recruitment director of the Super 7 team, which had nothing to do with Jonathan himself. However, now he has come up with a plausible, internal boss banner, which can create a mysterious background, arouse people's imagination, and increase potential credibility. The most terrifying thing about people is imagination. Once there is a guess, the whole thought will explode like an exponential function. P.S. Imagination is equal to infinite imagination. Not only that, with Ashley as an insider, when Ashley subjectively recognizes her identity, when Jonathan wants Ashley to help, it will be absolutely easy. This even includes the source of compound number 5. Jonathan calls this a free-for-all. The second main line is on Huey's side. With Huey's gradually awakening strong character, he will impulsively believe in many things. No matter what, he is easier to fool and control than other members of the Black Robe Patrol. Moreover, his girlfriend Xingguang is also an insider of the seven. If he wants to get first-hand intelligence, he has to rely on Xingguang's insight. As long as Huey wants to prove himself, he will call back. The third main line is the assistance of the entire Black Robe Patrol. This is a team with full luck and efficiency. Several ordinary people have been fined from the first season to the fourth season. Let them help him to bring down the forest. Jonathan must definitely get the forest laboratory. He is determined to get compound number 5, not only for injection, but also for subsequent research in the Marvel world, which will also be extremely helpful for him to establish a superpower. Therefore, if anything that threatens compound number 5 appears, Jonathan will strangle it in the cradle and it will never come out. Now that the 3 lines have been divided, he can only wait silently for the main line personnel to act. Frankie, have you checked the IP address of Little Mouse's phone? I have checked it. The other party doesn't seem to have any intention of hiding his tracks. The IP location shows that he is near the video store in the city center. Frankie, wearing a windproof goggles, held a cigarette in his mouth and turned the computer screen to Butcher. P.S. Here is an explanation for those who haven't seen the plot. Frankie used to work in the gang, but later retired because of the failure to protect the target. He is a technical geek. Used to supervise juvenile offenders and worked as a security guard. Later, Butcher pulled her out to help. She is a reliable black man who is half leader and half think tank. Video store. Huey, you seem to have worked there before, right? This fool even knows where you work. Butcher moved his upper body and looked at Huey, who was not very natural, with a playful look. In other words, he is a student there, or a member of the school committee. This Godokan University, we don't seem to have heard much about it before. Sat on a small bench and began to think. Huey, you used to be a fan of this 7-man fool team. Do you know this Godokan University? This is a college sponsored by the VOD group that specializes in training superhumans. It is divided into 2 departments. One is the art college founded by the Crimson Earl, and graduates can become stars, actors and singers. The other college is the anti-crime college founded by the Lamplighter, and graduates can become city police. The last one is the recruitment ranking mechanism formulated by Godokan University and the VOD group. The school will decide the ranking based on the students' popularity, public opinion and money-making ability. The Water group will recruit students based on the top 10 on the list. Generally speaking, the first and second ranked students can be selected to join the Super 7 team. The Locomotive and Deep Sea were the first and second ranked students in the Crime Fighting Academy, but I don't know why the later ranked students have never been on the 7 team. Quote, as for the others, I didn't pay attention to them. Haha, fighting crime, there are few normal superhumans born from fools, and it's almost the same as not committing crimes yourself. As he said, Butcher looked at Huey meaningfully and showed his signature smile. Of course, I hope Starlight is a good girl, don't you think, Huey? Huey didn't pay attention to Butcher's ridicule. This fool's mouth was as smelly as if it was stuffed with dog shit. He had long been used to it. So he added, I feel that since the other party wants us to destroy this so-called forest laboratory, then this laboratory is definitely not simple, and it may even hide some secrets. Little slug Huey, the superhuman laboratory is certainly not simple. Remember when we went to the baby room where compound number 5 was injected, that kid could actually shoot lasers. Busha took a small bottle of wine and poured it into his mouth. Under normal circumstances, there must be superhumans guarding the laboratory. How can a few ordinary people like us get in? Even if we use ammunition to attack, we may not be able to come back intact. So, Butcher, why did you agree to him? Just for the information about your wife, which you don't know whether it is true or not. Was a little angry. Butcher was a troublemaker who always messed things up. This time, he didn't even know the other party's details and hurried to trade. Shut up, Marvin, I have my own plans. And don't forget, although we are ordinary people, there is still one person. Then, Butcher looked at the woman who was watching TV not far away. Shit, no, absolutely not. Butcher, you want her to take the risk of being killed by a superhuman. Relax, Frankie. With your girlfriend's ability, it's actually a very easy thing to get in. Her self-healing is not a decoration. Besides, she is the main force of the team. We can't just watch her get into trouble, right? I'll leave it to you here. You motherless fool. When are we going to act? Have you checked the address and background? The full name of this laboratory is Sage Grove. It is located on the outskirts of Godokan University. On the surface, it is an extremely secretive mental hospital affiliated with the Global Health Agency, but in fact it is funded by the Water Group. Oh, even a fool knows there is a problem. Frankie, prepare enough ammunition. We will go to explore the truth tomorrow night, and then do him a favor. It was already evening. Jonathan returned to his dormitory very early. Since he was the first in the college, the school thoughtfully arranged a dedicated rest dormitory for him. Because Jonathan's identity, Luke, and Kate are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, Kate moved in last semester after they established their relationship. As soon as he returned to the dormitory, Jonathan saw Kate sitting on the bed in a daze, wondering what she was thinking about. Kate obviously didn't realize that her boyfriend was back, and was a little dazed. After seeing Jonathan, she asked, "Honey, why did you come back so late? Where did you go? You didn't tell me." "I went to do some things, that is, the matter of the 7-person team I told you yesterday. If nothing goes wrong, then our recruitment quota has been determined." "But honey, is the progress so fast? Isn't it a bit too unreal? That's a 7-person team." "It doesn't matter, I know." Seeing Jonathan's somewhat dull answer, Kate's pupils shrank, as if she had made up her mind. She frowned slightly, put her arm around Jonathan's shoulders, and said softly, "Luke, I don't know why, I always feel like you are hiding something from me. Can you tell me what it is? We can solve it together." Jonathan was shocked when he heard this. Although he had Luke's memory as a blessing, he was actually not used to the relationship between lovers. Instead, he was a little uncomfortable. This was the error caused by the lack of emotional foundation. But what was even more surprising was that Kate's ability to observe details was so strong. Now, he was caught in a dilemma. Although Kate was really beautiful and had a good figure, it was more difficult for him to pretend to love her. At this juncture, Jonathan suddenly thought of a way. "Honey, what are you hiding from me?" Jonathan looked at Kate steadily, with a sense of noncommittal. "What do you mean?" Kate was a little flustered when she saw Jonathan's sudden seriousness. She did have many secrets that she didn't tell Luke. Could it be that this was the reason for his huge change? "Then let me put it another way. Why do I always meet Sam in my dreams, but I don't know where he went? This fragment alone has been repeated in the dream no less than 10 times. Can you explain this to me? A person's memory repetition cannot be just a simple dream. The only one who can do this is you. Tell me, why does this happen? I vaguely remember that when you interviewed Godokan University, you showed this ability to Professor Brinkhoff." Quote. Kate began to tremble unconsciously after hearing this, but she still asked with a hint of luck. "But dreams are broken, and you keep dreaming about Sam, maybe you are just thinking about him." Jonathan remained the same, looking at Kate quietly without saying anything. This made Kate a little upset. "Luke, I really didn't mean to do this on purpose. I'm sorry, I shouldn't hurt you, I was forced. Or, forget this memory, if you want to really have this memory, then you will be hurt, I don't want you to be hurt. Are you still obsessed? Do you think it's not outrageous for an ordinary person to control a superpower? Even use this as a threat to conduct secret underground experiments." Quote. Luke, how do you know? I'm sorry, I have my own channels. And, Kate, do you really know what Shetty is doing? Do what? Quote. She is creating a virus that can make superhumans lose their superpowers and die. Not only that, she even wants to join forces with the CIA to infect all superhumans in the world and kill them. If that's true, then not only you and I, but also our friends, will die. No, this is not true. Kate grabbed Jonathan's hand in a somewhat collapsed state, crying. "I'm sorry, if you really don't believe it, then let's go to the forest together to take a look." "No, absolutely not. There are many powerful guards there. Luke, you can't beat them, even the lamplighter is in there." Quote. Looking at Kate crying, Jonathan felt helpless. Shetty had already used drugs to pua her too deeply. If she continued like this, she would only become a puppet of the other party and an accomplice in destroying superhumans. Although Jonathan had no feelings for the superhumans in this world, he still had to inject compound number 5, which meant that he had to ruin Shetty's plan. Honestly, honey, I want to ask you, are you really willing to be controlled by an ordinary person? Or do you like being a puppet in a daze? Quote. Quote. Kate, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly raised her head, and the makeup on her face was mottled by tears. I know, Luke, I don't want to go on like this. I know I hurt you, I want to make up for it, just, give me some time to digest it, okay? Jonathan was a little surprised to hear this. He originally thought that Kate's feelings for Luke were not so deep. After all, in the original book, she had an affair with Haig in advance. But now, I feel that there is still hope. Don't worry, honey, I'm not so stupid as to break into the laboratory alone. Don't forget the source of my channel. In the evening, a van slowly drove into a hidden forest and stopped behind an old tree. Click, the right door slid open, and 4 men and 1 woman walked out of the car. Except for the woman, the other 4 men held guns in their hands. Huey, use a pistol. You haven't practiced before, and you may not be able to withstand the recoil of the rifle. Frank looked at the rifle that was nearly half a meter high, and then looked at Huey's thin figure, and chose to hand him a pistol he carried with him. Okay, then doesn't Kimiko need a gun? Do you think she needs it? Rolled her eyes at Huey. Hurry up. The group sneaked through the woods and soon came to the periphery of the sage grove. Looking carefully, I saw that the entire laboratory was surrounded by a high-voltage power grid, and the only entrance and exit were fully armed. I wonder if it was guarded by superhuman guards. It seems that the dead rat has caused us a huge trouble. Boucher's face was a little dark. He didn't expect that Jonathan's conditions were so harsh. It was no different from asking them to destroy this place. Frankie, is there any way? Of course, I also brought my toolbox with insulating gloves and liquid pliers. So, was responsible for guarding and Butcher was on guard. Frankie cut a big hole in the power grid. Then, the 3 of them put on the cleaners, uniforms prepared in advance and entered the laboratory through the back door. As soon as they entered the door, a central device exhibition that could only be seen in the hospital appeared in front of everyone. Fortunately, Marvin had medical experience and was familiar with the equipment in the hospital. It was not difficult to unlock such a device. But, before unlocking, we have to eliminate the current danger. What is behind the heavy door is unknown. Once the door is opened, there is no way back. If an accident occurs, the whole team may be wiped out at any time, which is not worth the loss. So, for safety, leaned her head against the heavy door and tried to listen to the sound behind. There are many media for sound transmission, and objects are the fastest. Sure enough, there are frequent footsteps in the corridor behind the heavy door. If he guessed correctly, there must be guards patrolling behind. As long as he opened the door, the team would immediately meet them. At that time, a gunfight is inevitable. It is possible that more guards will be alarmed to surround and approach this side. Busha, there are about 5 or 6 guards behind. Can you handle it? Let them feel Daddy's enthusiasm. Huey, you hide behind. Kimiko, open the way in front, and Frankie and I will cover the firepower. Busha loaded the rifle in his hand, pointed it at the heavy door and issued instructions to the team. After nodded in agreement, used her old experience to trick the door of the central control room open with one set of operations. The heavy door rose, and while the guards on the opposite side were still in a daze, several people began to attack. Kimiko leaned down slightly, and rushed out in a hunting posture, and her agile skills like a wolf were handed over in the counterattack of the guards. Blood splattered, fingers pierced the neck, and then twisted with great force, breaking the limbs. Ah! The shouts of counterattack, mixed with countless yellow bullets pouring out, bloomed blood flowers on Kimiko's body. The impact of these bullets did not cause much hindrance to Kimiko. Her self-healing ability would expel the bullets and repair the wounds in a blink of an eye. Kimiko recalled every bloody night she spent in the terrorist organization before, which was worse than the pain of bullets and heartbreaking. This unspeakable pain can only be released in every killing. The final battle ended with Butcher finishing off the enemy with a headshot. These fools should be guarding something in this room. Let's go in and take a look. Wiped the blood off her face and pushed the door of the room open first. In the room, more than 10 monitors were installed on a white wall, and each monitor displayed a corresponding ward. And in these wards, the patients were obviously different from ordinary people. Some floated in the air, some changed their shapes, some spit acid, and even. Wow, he actually used that prop as a skipping rope. Stared at the screen with an incredible face, feeling that her 3 views had been greatly impacted. So, this is not just a laboratory, but also a hell on Earth where a large number of superhumans are imprisoned for experiments. Frankie analyzed. What are these crazy people studying? Huey's daughter, his friend Xingguang, is also a superhuman. He can't imagine what would happen if Annie was locked up here. Hey, Butcher, when will that mysterious fool come over? Look at these superhumans on the screen. We can't deal with them easily. Then I want to ask you, what kind of alien can guard these superhumans? Butcher, you always do things as you please. You will kill us all. Don't worry, man, I called before I left. The sewer rat said he would come. Godokan University is not far from here. We will see his true face soon. Butcher shrugged and pointed to a display screen on the wall. It seems that there is an incredible fool rushing towards us. Hearing Butcher's words, everyone turned their attention to the big screen. It was a middle-aged man with a blonde flat head wearing a nursing uniform, holding a lighter and rushing towards where they were. Who is this? Why does he look familiar? Not knowing who the person is, everyone can only plan to move forward, and see if they can find a chance to sneak deeper into the interior while waiting for the mysterious person to arrive. As the footsteps approached, another door was reopened. The blonde man with a flat head walked to the middle of the corridor and saw 5 guards who were bleeding all over the ground and dead. There are intruders. The situation was critical, so the man took out his mobile phone from his pocket and dialed a number. At this time, Butcher and his group had come to a relatively core area in the interior. This area was surrounded by locked iron gates, and extremely dangerous superhuman criminals were imprisoned behind the iron gates. Butcher, this is a dead end, we need to change the entrance to enter. Why are you leading the way? Just as everyone was about to turn around and retreat, a man with a lighter in his hand appeared in front of them, blocking their way. You shouldn't have come in here. Then the man lit the lighter, and then grabbed the air with his other hand. The flame in the lighter was magnified as if it was controlled, and finally turned into a hot ball of fire, which was firmly grasped in the palm of the man's hand. Who are you? If you tell the truth, I can consider giving you a whole body. You are the Lamplighter. P.S. The Lamplighter, a retired member of the former 7 team, the founder of the Crime Fighting Academy, has the ability to control existing flames. His classic image is wearing a green hooded robe and holding a torch. Seeing this familiar flame, Frankie's eyes were instantly filled with blood, and his face was bulging with blue veins. He wanted to fight with the gun in his hand. However, due to the obstruction of Butcher and Frankie could not move forward. You cowards! He killed Mallory's grandson. Frankie was furious and struggled constantly. You are an inhuman scum. You are the one who followed me back then. The Lamplighter's heart skipped a beat, but his expression remained serious on the surface. These things have happened many years ago. It's time to bury them in the ground. Back then, as a member of the Super 7, the Lamplighter was coerced by Mallory to spy on the VOT group. But he was unwilling to be controlled by others, and he developed a rebellious and vengeful mentality, so he sneaked into Mallory's house in the dark and burned Mallory's bedroom. Unexpectedly, it was not Mallory lying on the bed in the bedroom, but several children waiting for their grandmother to come back and tell stories. The Lamplighter felt deeply guilty about this, so he faded out of the public eye and was arranged by the VOT group to destroy evidence. However, he did not know the big thing that Shetty, the president of Godokan University, was secretly planning. Do you want to forget this? You will never get over this level in your life, you scum. Frankie continued to roar. However, the Lamplighter was not a good-tempered person, and he retorted in a louder voice. Did you stop me at that time? You followed me but didn't stop me. You are also a sinner. You are no match for me, and you have no right to say anything to me. Hearing this, Frankie's angry face suddenly became stiff, and then he fell silent. 8 years ago, he and his best friends Shirley and Jay were 3 criminals who were in trouble in society. 5 years ago, the 3 were arrested. In order to prevent his best friends from being sent to prison, Frankie accepted Mallory's recruitment and joined the secret team to fight against superhumans with his own skills and abilities. When Mallory threatened the lamplighter, he was ordered to follow, in case of an accident. That night, Frankie followed the lamplighter outside the nightclub, but at this time he received a call from Shirley, saying that his best friend Jay was in critical condition due to an overdose of flour and needed urgent treatment. On one side was the mission, and on the other side was friendship. Frankie thought the lamplighter would stay in the nightclub, so he ventured back to his residence to wake Jay up. But in just half an hour, the lamplighter slipped out the back door and avenged Mallory. Ironically, Jay overdosed again a few months later and eventually lost his life. Therefore, the lamplighter's rebuttal was not only not wrong, but also made Frankie speechless with guilt. Haha, am I right? Since you don't want to say it, don't blame me. As he said, the lamplighter was about to throw the fireball in his hand. At this critical moment, a slender hand suddenly appeared on the lamplighter's neck. Put down your fireball, okay. For some reason, the lamplighter felt his body become paralyzed instantly, and his limbs actually followed the instructions under the intervention of this voice. Beside his ear, there was a gentle and seductive female voice. Everyone, am I not late? As the woman's figure dodged, a man with black hair and black eyes and dressed in tight clothes appeared in the sight of the black robe group. Oh, the little mouse hiding behind the scenes finally showed up. If we had come a little later, this fool's lamplighter would have made us into toasted baguettes. Tell me, what is the purpose of calling us here? Seeing the appearance of the mastermind behind the scenes, Marvin, who had always been upset about Butcher's impulsive transaction, asked. Are you sure you want to say it here? Don't forget that there is a lamplighter of the 7-man team here. And when we came in, the alarm outside had already sounded. If nothing unexpected happens, many guards will arrive and surround this place. Jonathan shrugged. Why the hell didn't you say it earlier? Do you want us all to die here? Hearing Jonathan's words, and Frankie instantly exploded, holding their guns tightly in their hands, and they were about to fire them accidentally. Don't worry, those guards are just ordinary people with guns. In other words, all the experimenters in this laboratory, including the guards, are ordinary people. What's more, you have Kimiko to help. At this point, Jonathan also looked in the direction of Kimiko. The little wolf girl in the original book also has a strong self-healing ability. She has been trained by the terrorist organization since she was a child and has learned a lot of killing skills. So who are you? You seem to know us very well. Hearing Kimiko's name, Frankie's pupils shrank. Only the members of the Black Robe group knew Kimiko's real name. How did he know it? In fact, I don't know you very well. I just have some research on you. Let me introduce myself. You can call me Luke. The one next to me is my girlfriend, Kate. We are both students at Godokan University. Students, that means, you are all superhumans. Hearing this, even Butcher, who has a big heart, was a little surprised. You're a superhuman, and you're asking us ordinary people to help you do things. That's not right. Superhumans and ordinary people are both human beings. If that's the case, aren't you also affirming this truth by forming this team to fight against superhumans? Don't you think so, Huey? Huey, whose brain was currently overclocked and confused, was at a loss for Jonathan's cue and didn't respond at all. Okay, please open it for a while. Following Jonathan's words, Kate put her hand on the lamplighter's shoulder and began to control his mind. Attack that wall. A magic sound came into his ears, and the lamplighter, whose eyes became empty, stiffly stretched his hand into the air, and then threw the fireball in his hand to the corner of the wall not far away. The next second, the flames directly hit the ward door behind Frankie, who had dodged, and then the high-temperature fireworks directly burned the door. At this moment, the controlled lamplighter also regained consciousness. After realizing what he had done, his face suddenly turned ugly, and he muttered to himself. No, you are looking for death. In the damaged ward, a pale, silent, sickly-looking woman walked out. Everyone could see the name tag on her hospital gown. Cindy. After the woman walked out of the room, she stared at everyone present with her lifeless eyes, and finally focused her attention on the lamplighter. At this time, the sharp-eyed Huey discovered that the lamplighter's body began to tremble. It's just an ordinary patient, is it necessary to be so scared? At this time, Dense footsteps suddenly came from outside the heavy door not far away, and then several scattered bullets broke through the wind and attacked the direction where everyone was. "Lamplighter, are they your friends?" Cindy said somewhat woodenly, with no spirit in her empty eyes. "Ah, yes, ouch." At this moment, a bullet just brushed past the lamplighter's scalp, shocking him so much that he held his head with both hands and dodged to a hidden place around him. "It seems they don't look like each other." Cindy seemed to have found her target and looked at the dozen guards rushing towards her. Then, Huey saw that Cindy just clenched her fist in the air, and a guard was like a balloon that was squeezed and burst. Bang! Blood and flesh flew everywhere. "Wadfak, run!" Seeing that Cindy was a little too strong, the Black Robe team members began to run away one after another, fearing that they would be injured by mistake. And Jonathan also pulled Kate to hide in another heavy door passage in time, and trotted all the way to a deeper area. "Luke, so your channel is the wanted criminals wanted by the Water Group. You know that Billy Butcher is a terrorist who attacked the former Water Group with a bomb, Vice President Madeline. That's not what you said before you came. And you asked me to release that superhuman with extremely terrifying telekinetic ability. Luke, what do you want to do?" While running, Kate held Jonathan's hand tightly, with a serious face. "This is the laboratory of Godokan University. If something goes wrong, you and I will be punished, or even expelled. Honey, do you know what Shetty is doing here? She imprisoned a large number of superhumans here for experiments. Do you think she is just doing research?" Following the path in the original book's memory, Jonathan took Kate to stop in front of a closed one-way observation room. "Look, this is what she is really studying." Quote, following the guidance of Jonathan's finger, Kate saw a woman covered with poisonous sores, lying on the ground, her life or death unknown. In addition, the door of the observation room was marked in red with the words, "The first dose of superhuman virus injection was successful, the target has died." This is her real purpose, using a large number of superhumans for live experiments in order to create a virus that can destroy the superhuman race. This is the finished product. No, this is not true. Kate covered her mouth, tears of regret kept rolling in her eyes. What did I do for her? Quote, ever since being controlled by Shet with drugs, Kate has been helping her clear the memories of the people involved. According to Shet himself, she was trying to cure the unstable factors in the bodies of superhumans. And Kate foolishly believed what Shet said about her. She herself was a superhuman and had experienced similar out-of-control events when she was a child. She knew that with research like Shet's, future superhumans might not have a tragic or even bloody childhood, nor would they be criticized and cursed as aliens and freaks. But Kate's kindness turned out to be Shet's tool for murdering superhumans. This gap made Kate difficult to accept for a while. Just when Kate was about to collapse, a heavy door closest to Jonathan suddenly opened, and then a person who surprised Jonathan walked out. The man was wearing thick black ninja armor, holding an assault rifle in his hand, and equipped with two samurai swords shining with white light behind him. This is actually Black. Why did Zansei appear here? Jonathan's brain was a little out of control. This plot didn't exist in the original book. Could it be that Zansei had already cooperated with Shulin before, which was not filmed in the original book? What was the reason for the cooperation? Zansei himself is also a superhuman. Isn't it destroying his future and seeking death by doing this? At this time, Zansei came out of the heavy door without saying a word, holding an assault rifle and shooting, hitting Jonathan by surprise. Quick, hide in the corner. Seeing Zansei's action without hesitation, Jonathan quickly protected Kate and pulled her to hide in a hidden corner. Although Kate is a superhuman, she is more inclined to assist. If she can't contact the opponent, then her ability will not work. And Zansei's whole body is wrapped in a battle suit. Kate's ability is useless at this time. If she goes out to help rashly, she will only die. Stay here first, don't come out. After thinking for a while, Jonathan said something inexplicable to Kate. He is allergic to nuts. Then, after Jonathan settled Kate, who was still in shock and confused, he saw the right opportunity and rushed towards Shuance's blind spot. As a long-range attack, the aim is one of the bullets, and a stable and non-displaced target is the premise of the attack. Jonathan's rapid raid is a target that is constantly displaced and has no fixed point, Sichuan's gave up the plan of machine gun shooting and chose to deal with it with close combat. Being selected into the Super 7 team and appreciated by the motherland, this character who was not written in great detail in the original book should not be underestimated. Therefore, Jonathan had already entered a full-body combat state when he raided, and his attack was a heavy blow. But it is obvious that Sichuan, as a veteran member of the 7 team, has had the experience of carrying out assassination missions many times, which has given him the ability to react to things to the extreme. With just one hand outstretched, Zansei's black leather glove tightly grasped Jonathan's fist, making it difficult for him to move forward. Just by this simple fight, Jonathan was a little shocked. His strength was strengthened and enhanced by the characteristics of cancer cells. Originally, his strength had reached the level of a professional boxer. But now, Zansei easily took his blow, which showed that his strength was comparable to his or even higher. Zansei, who took the blow, also had a certain assessment of Jonathan's strength. The opponent's strength is good, and he should be a superhuman with strength. He needs to use weapons to counterattack with advantage. Yes, weapons, even if his opponent is in a bare-handed state. He does not talk about any martial ethics at all. This is Zansei's fighting style. In the world of the boys, there is rarely a saying of mercy. When performing tasks and solving goals, everything is based on efficiency and completion. He will use anything that can be solved by taking advantage without hesitation. Jonathan on the other side naturally would not continue to expose his disadvantages to the enemy after 3 years of fighting training by Crossbones Rumlow. He quickly pulled out his fist and stepped back lightly, forming a natural confrontation space. In this space, there was room for both offense and defense. Zansei drew out 2 double swords from the X-shaped long box behind the black ninja uniform, and the blades flashed coldly in the light, and then held them in the air. And Jonathan also raised his whole body's spirit, staring at Zansei's movements, and predicting the opponent's next attack direction in his mind at any time. The battle broke out instantly. Zansei flashed like a ghost, and the double swords attacked Jonathan at a tricky angle. Jonathan reacted quickly and dodged sideways, but Zansei's speed was extremely fast, and his left sword slashed Jonathan's arm, leaving a blood mark, but Jonathan's extreme self-healing ability quickly took effect, and the wound began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the Marvel world, ordinary weapons can't even break Jonathan's defense, which shows how strong Zansei is. Jonathan secretly smacked his lips, and quickly fought back, with a straight punch towards Zansei's face. Zansei leaned back slightly, dodged easily, and then kicked Jonathan in the abdomen with a roundhouse kick. Jonathan was directly knocked back several steps by the huge force, and then stabilized his body. Zansei frowned under the mask, which was a bit tricky. Under normal circumstances, with his half-strength straight kick, he could directly kick a person into 2 pieces of minced meat. However, for the superhuman in front of him, the opponent not only has the ability to heal himself, but also has an amazing defense level. Although Zansei couldn't speak, he wanted to say, "What a meat." This on the side, Jonathan took advantage of Zansei's slackness and rushed up again. In order to ensure the suppression of the moves, Jonathan chose a 3-in-a-row Muay Thai elbow strike, a horizontal elbow followed by a 180-degree turn, followed by the same horizontal elbow on the other side, and the last one was a 360-degree turn and downward elbow strike. Bang, bang, bang. Although Jonathan's attack was fierce, Zansei relied on his extreme reaction and agility to dodge left and right, making Jonathan's first 2 attacks all miss. The last elbow strike with the strongest force, he blocked steadily with his arms crossed. Then, Zansei saw the opportunity, crossed his 2 swords, and swung them vigorously. Jonathan only had time to block with both hands. The powerful impact made his tiger's mouth numb and blood splashed. At this time, Jonathan gradually realized the gap between himself and Zansei in strength. His attacks could not cause substantial damage to Zansei, and every attack of Zansei made him feel exhausted. As expected of a member of the Super 7, even if he doesn't appear on screen, with this fighting power, the only ones who can really beat Zansei are probably Homelander and Queen Maeve. In this case, there is no need for conventional means. Jonathan glanced at Zansei and then took a deep breath. Hold your breath and concentrate. The familiar cool and icy feeling surged again, and the hidden energy gathered from the heart, followed the lungs and body circulation with the blood to each capillary, and combined with the sympathetic nerves throughout the body. The sympathetic nerves, known as the fight-or-flight emergency brake system, in biology, are divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. After the sympathetic nerves are activated, excitement causes the heart rate to increase, the pupils to dilate, and the blood to increase to the muscles. The parasympathetic nerves are the opposite, focusing on the recovery and repair of the body. The triggering effect of hold your breath and concentrate is that the two sympathetic nerves are forced to trigger in parallel. This means that in this state, Jonathan's overall quality will rise sharply in a short period of time, while maintaining body balance and enhancing self-healing. Under the effect of the ability, Jonathan could feel that every muscle was expanding crazily, and the power was pouring out continuously. Not only that, his nerve reaction speed was also greatly enhanced. Looking at the things around him, it was as if they were moving at a slower speed. This included the attacking Shuans. Shuans attacked again, and Jonathan clearly captured his movement trajectory. He easily dodged sideways and threw a punch at the same time. The speed and power of this punch far exceeded the previous one. Shuans was unable to dodge and was hit hard on the shoulder. He staggered back a few steps, and then attacked again with two knives. This time, Jonathan was able to quickly capture Shuans's movement trajectory. He faced Shuans's two knives, turned around and dodged, and directly grabbed the handles with both hands. Shuans didn't expect Jonathan to hide his strength, so he tried to break free, but Jonathan's strength was obviously much greater than before. He just swung it violently and threw Shuans away. Shuans adjusted his body shape in the air and landed steadily. But before he could stand firm, Jonathan rushed to him like lightning and hit Shuans's chest with a heavy punch. Shuans groaned and took a few steps back. Take advantage of his weakness to kill him. Jonathan did not give Shuans a chance to breathe. His continuous attacks came like a storm, directly suppressing Shuans, and his body kept retreating backwards. During this period, Shuans tried to fight back, but Jonathan did not give him a chance to fight back. He held his breath, dodged Shuans's attack with a sideways move, and then hit Shuans's back with an elbow. Under the blessing of the force, Shuans rushed forward, and the place where he rushed forward was exactly where Jonathan placed Kate. At this time, a slender hand suddenly climbed up to Shuans's neck covered by the mask. "You eat a lot of nuts." The devilish sound penetrated his ears, and the dark pupils under the mask shrank hard. In his subconscious mind, it was as if he had really put nuts in his mouth, and his whole body was in a severe allergic reaction. In biology, the mechanism of allergic reaction is that after the allergen enters the body, it induces B cells to produce IgE antibodies, and IgE combines with mast cells to put the body in a sensitized state. When the allergen is contacted again, the allergen combines with the sensitized mast cells, inducing the body to release bioactive substances, which in turn causes local or systemic symptoms. And allergic reactions are also related to nerve reflexes. As a superhuman with telepathy and manipulation abilities, Kate can tamper with people's subconsciousness and make the cerebral cortex mistakenly believe that the host has really, accidentally eaten nuts, so it will make corresponding reflex instructions. Jonathan still remembers that in the original play, Kate was mentally controlling a superhuman who spoke rudely to the late Luke. She asked him to go to the sporting goods store and buy a Louise brand heavy-hitting baseball bat, and then hit himself with the full-force bat, once every hour on time, and shout, "Big hammer," every time he swung the bat. It can be seen that the mind control ability person is a one-to-one expert in torturing people, and this horror is enough to make all men feel sad and painful. At this time, Shuans's whole body began to twitch unconsciously, and he obviously had difficulty breathing, and even pinched his neck uncomfortably until he lost consciousness. "Luke, he won't die just like this, right? He is a member of the Super 7. If something really happens, Homelander and other members of the 7 will not let us go." Kate was a little panicked, although this was to save her life. But it was obvious that there was no turning back. She had already followed Jonathan into this quagmire. Confused and without a direction, she could only rely on Jonathan. But there was no emotional fluctuation on Jonathan's face. Because he knew that Zansei was a pragmatic and honest man in the 7-man team, and the most loyal comrade in the eyes of the motherland. But in fact, he was extremely self-centered and afraid of death. When he was in the same team with the soldier boy in his early years, he had the idea of forming a group to assassinate him. In the later part of the plot, after Butcher and others really woke up the sleeping soldier boy, Zansei had been hiding the news from the motherland. He was afraid that the soldier boy would come to the door for revenge, so he deliberately took out the tracking chip in his body and hid in the hut. So, since Zansei was connected to the forest, he would never dare to tell this secret. Once he told it, he would be the mortal enemy of all superhumans. Especially as a superhuman racist, the motherland would never let him go. He won't die. He's just allergic to nuts. He'll be unconscious for a few hours at most. The time he's lying dead is enough for us to act. I'm curious, what's the connection between Shuance and the forest, that he was hired as a thug? With curiosity, Jonathan pulled Kate through the heavy door that Shuance had just walked out of. Behind the heavy door was a research filled with the smell of disinfection. The lights in the laboratory were dim and strange, and the cold metal walls reflected a terrifying luster. Finally, we've reached the core area. It's hidden deep, isn't it? Looking at the weird and tortured superhumans soaking in the liquid culture chamber, Jonathan felt a little physically uncomfortable, and Kate next to him bent over and retched because of nausea. At this moment, a female voice suddenly came from behind them. Don't move. Put your hands up. Jonathan and Kate turned around and saw Principal Zayati pointing a special gun at them with a gloomy face. Golden boy, Kate, you shouldn't be here. Tell me, how did you find this place? The moment Zayati saw the two, she immediately had the idea of killing them to prevent them from leaking the secret, but she was not sure if there were other people who knew about it besides the two of them. My gun was specially made by the doctor, and it is filled with superhuman virus. As long as I shoot, the moment the bullet penetrates your skin, the virus will flow back through the blood and spread throughout your body. Virus. Sorry, I don't have this ability only after injecting compound number 5, at least not at the moment. However, his girlfriend Kate is in danger, and Jonathan cannot risk her life, especially without an antidote. Therefore, Jonathan carefully protected Kate behind him and looked away. Zayati, aren't you afraid of backlash from all the superhumans in society for doing these things? Haha, backlash, Zayati sneered crazily, and her voice echoed in the empty laboratory, seeming particularly sharp. You bunch of fool superhumans, remember the crashed passenger plane? My husband and 2 4-year-old daughters were all on it. Everything I did was just for revenge, to make you freaks pay the price. Jonathan laughed speechlessly after hearing this. It seems that you, a bunch of stupid villains with brains, will impose the responsibility on the innocent society as long as your own interests are damaged. It's like you were bitten by a dog and then wanted all the dogs in the world to die. You are stupid and brainless. Can you learn from the purple potato spirit? They have lofty ideals and beliefs when they do bad things. You, except for a brain like a pile of shit, have nothing left. Of course, Jonathan would never say such words. This is not a reason for you to mess around. In fact, the current rate of families injected with compound number 5 has reached almost 70% of the entire American society. Which family does not have old and young? Your family is the most noble, and the families of other superhumans are not human. Even if I say it in a higher way, most of the families of superhumans seem to be innocent ordinary people, right? Hearing that her ideas were denied, Chet's face was distorted with anger, and she screamed. Innocent. None of those guys who gained superpowers with compound number 5 are innocent. Aren't they all for making money and getting into the upper class? Well, no doubt, aren't you also in the upper class? If you don't make money, can you become the president of Godokan University? A complete double standard dog. Jonathan would be a complete idiot if he continued to talk to her. So Jonathan chose to divert his attention to see if there was anything he could fight back against. His eyes quickly swept across every corner of the laboratory. On those neatly arranged lab tables, various complex instruments were flashing, and in each transparent petri dish, there was liquid emitting a faint green light, which was the so-called superhuman virus. A smug smile appeared on Chet's ferocious face, and she said viciously, "Take a good look at this deadly virus. Once infected, it will begin to erode the inside of the superhuman, causing the infected person's body to gradually rot until the superpowers completely disappear and life ends." Hearing Zayati's paranoid words, Jonathan had 3 black lines on his head and said helplessly, To be honest, Zayati, your idea is a bit naive. Based on your understanding and the usual behavior of water company, will they not launch other products besides compound number 5? As long as there are researchers, just like you, who have developed the superhuman virus, even if compound number 5 is destroyed, they will launch compound number 6, compound number 7, or even more. If you want to overthrow water company, it won't work just by relying on this method. Shut up, he mouthed. Shet was furious. She raised the special gun in her hand and squeezed the trigger tightly. My purpose is very simple, which is revenge. I have been patient for a long time to kill you superhumans. No matter what Walter will launch in the future, at least, you will die in my hands. So, I think it is worth it. Tell me, who else knows? Tell me and I can increase your shooting dose so that you can die more easily. Shetty felt that he had won the game. His whole body was filled with the pleasure of judging the sinners, life and death, and it was very satisfying. Then there is no room for negotiation. At this time, Jonathan's mind began to run fast. If he continued to stalemate with Shet, Kate behind him would be more dangerous. The only way out now is to attack. Take action as soon as possible and take the initiative into your own hands. Jonathan moved before he stopped thinking. He used half of his body to shield Kate, and on the other side, he quickly grabbed the medicine on the laboratory table, and then rushed to Shet at lightning speed, and threw it to the face with precision when he got close. I don't know whether Jonathan grabbed hydrochloric acid or some highly corrosive medicine. Shetty, who didn't react in time, was directly covered in the face by the medicine splashed in the test tube. Then came the intense burning and pain of the skin, and temporary blindness of both eyes. With the confusion of light and dark in his vision, coupled with the blessing of pain and burning, Shetty instantly fell into extreme panic, and then instinctively pulled the trigger. Therefore, just as Jonathan was about to approach and take the special gun, he was hit by the dense medicine bullets sprayed from the muzzle. Luke, be careful. At this critical moment, Kate, who was hiding behind Jonathan, suddenly shouted. At this moment, Kate's thoughts flashed like lightning. To be honest, her relationship with Luke was limited to an ordinary boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and it was not considered a deep sea. But the help and spiritual comfort brought to her by this relationship were what she was unwilling to let go easily. Because only Luke knew everything about her, even the fragility of her heart. After a long time of getting along, she, who had always been traumatized, had long developed a dependence on Luke as her boyfriend. It was not like deep love, but more like possession. Moreover, whether it was for her fame in the academy or out of a complex dependence, she instinctively did not want to end it. Buzz. At this moment, the whites of her eyes suddenly spread with blood vessels, and then her entire mind entered an extreme overclocking state, and the blood vessels all over her body surged towards the cerebral cortex. The sharp tinnitus and the piercing nerves turned Kate's instantaneous thoughts into a substantial spiritual fluctuation, condensing into a nuclear bomb, and then bursting. Buzz. Jonathan and Shetty, who were present, felt their consciousness stagnate for a moment, and then were controlled by the overbearing repulsive force and bounced away. The picture went from pause to resume. Jonathan slid to the ground, and Shetty was directly blasted to the experimental table, and all the test tubes carrying blue and green mixed unknown liquids were smashed. Luke. Jonathan, who slid away, looked up quickly and found that Kate's chest was now pierced with 2 superhuman virus needles, and the green liquid in the needles was slowly being pushed into her body. Kate had just completely exploded her ability, and her mental power and brain cells had already entered an overdrawn state, coupled with the superhuman virus medicine injected into her body. She found that she could no longer hold on. After taking a last look at Jonathan, Kate's body softened and was about to fall to the ground. How could this happen? Wake up, wake up. Jonathan rushed over as fast as he could, caught Kate, and then held her head and quickly checked Kate's condition. Kate's condition was very bad now. Her eyes were bleeding from the overclocked brain, and her mind was empty, and her pupils were gradually dilating. She fell to the ground in pain. On the ground, she screamed shrilly according to her body's instinct. The virus raged wildly in her delicate body, and her originally beautiful face was distorted due to extreme pain. At this time, Jonathan suddenly remembered that Kimiko was also infected by the virus in the original book, and he immediately rolled up Kate's sleeves. Sure enough, dense blood-colored lumps began to spread from her arms. The skin began to shrink in the infected area, and the internal muscles began to carbonize involuntarily. At this rate of spread, in less than 10 minutes, these viruses will spread to Kate's whole body. By then, even Jehovah God will not be able to save Kate. Oh, it's useless. The superhuman virus agent has already started to circulate along the blood after entering the body. Sitting on the ground with his head drooping, Shetty, who had countless broken bones, spit out blood foam and laughed sarcastically. I might as well tell you that this virus is modified by comparing the sequence extracted from compound No. 5. Unless you have the ability to modify the virus sequence, otherwise, no matter how hard you struggle, it will be useless. Superhumans, you are the dregs of this society. It must be hard to lose your loved one. Shut up your shitty mouth, old woman, Jonathan said, turning his head to the side and looking at the densely packed test tube rack with hundreds of blue liquids. That is compound number 5. Jonathan looked at Kate, who was lying on the ground and twitching, with a complicated look in his eyes. Following his inner guess, he made a bold decision. His system was a mutation caused by contact with the cosmic cube. In other words, the firewall of the system itself is not as high as imagined, and it is also a program that can continuously evolve and improve. Before, he also guessed whether he could affect the function of the system itself through external force, but he had never tried it. There are many ways to do it. He only has such a system, and the cost of trial and error is really not high. Now, in order to deal with emergencies, he can only gamble one more time. Originally, he only regarded this world as a game copy, and did not think about investing a lot of emotions and energy to integrate into this world. Now, Kate's sacrifice made Jonathan very unhappy. Although he became Kate's boyfriend as a replacement, at the beginning, the two did not have a particularly strong relationship. At the beginning, Jonathan did treat the entire Black Robe world as a copy. The characters in it were just insignificant NPCs. For Kate, Jonathan felt that she was just an NPC with a slightly deeper bond with him. Game life. Maybe at the beginning, it was more about lust. As for lovers, they had already done what they should do. After all, this is also his first copy world. If the first woman who has contact with him dies like this, who the hell can swallow this breath? In Charlotte's words, this is my dream, can you beat me? What's more, Jonathan has long regarded everything around him as his own. Do you want to take back what I have in my hands? I won't kill you. Life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God. If you can't even protect your own things, how can you talk about conquering the world? It's all nonsense. Then just be a gambler. I wonder if the cards I saved before are still useful. Thinking of this, Jonathan opened his system panel and came to the novice card pool page for noun card recruitment. There were 3 noun cards shining with golden light lying quietly. Chloroplast, deoxyribonucleic acid (DNA), ribonucleic acid (RNA). If it is chloroplasts, photosynthesis, absorbing energy, is equivalent to taking the path of super. For DNA, semi-conservative replication, and transcription and translation, but this is not the ability that Jonathan really wants at the moment. Finally, there is only one RNA left, and the RNA noun card has a reverse transcription ability that matches the current choice. In biology, reverse transcription is the process of synthesizing DNA using RNA as a template, that is, DNA synthesis under the guidance of RNA. In this process, nucleic acid synthesis and transcription are opposite to the flow direction of genetic information. In simple terms, it is possible to reset and obtain substances in the opposite direction. Very good, I hope it works. Jonathan did not hesitate and chose ribonucleic acid (RNA) as the must-win up in his novice card pool. Then, Jonathan took a deep breath, poured half of the number 5 compound on the test tube rack into a laboratory bucket, and then swallowed it in one gulp. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.